And we are live. Hey, everybody. It's Comics Cast Let It Out team this Sunday. And I am so happy to welcome my guest co-host here, Rick, again. He's been phenomenal in these last few shows and added a totally new element to Let It Out. But we got a treat tonight as part of our double feature for Page One Comics, where we had them on our ART show yesterday. We are pleased to have the talented, super duper Joe Wills with us tonight or today. How you doing, Joe? Please say hello to everybody.
Good. I am very good. I appreciate the extra duper on there. So that's definitely an ego boost. So.
Oh yeah, I for some reason I had like senior moment and I couldn't think of anything better than super duper. I was hanging out with my 5-year-old niece yesterday, and I think I've reverted to 5-year-old niece language.
So everything is as it used to be, is what you're saying.
So I was 6 years old. That was my mentality, and now I'm down to 5. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now, and you are super duper. I'm just gonna say that one more time, so our audience.
Thank you.
Have you guys realized that duper never comes alone?
Duper never comes alone.
Yeah, it's always super first. Why can't duper be its own man?
True.
I don't know that. You're gonna have to ask Merriam-Webster. Why that's.
I'm gonna make a man called Duperman.
Superman.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not just super.
You told everybody, so now everybody's gonna race to the copyright office and they're gonna trademark Duperman. So
yeah, it's in the zeitgeist now, so you can't,
Ooh, don't use big words like that. I'm still 5-year-old mentality here. But anyway, I want to welcome Joe to our show, and I also want to welcome our audience. Just like before, we want to encourage audience participation. So please, as we are drawing, which we're going to be doing shortly, after we do a little bit of a little bio piece on Mr. Joe here, I want people to, if you're watching and you want to draw along with us, if you have any questions you have for Mr. Wills, and just make sure it's Wills, not Willis. I made the mistake of saying Willis before. If you want to talk, so if you want to talk to Mr. Wills, or if you want to draw along with us, especially if you draw along with us, Rick will handle it. Put it in the comments, and we'll have a way that we can kind of show it at the end of each particular challenge. We got 3 lined up for you today. Cool. As we move along to our little bio section of where we talk a little bit about Mr. Wills' history here, I want to point to the bottom here where we have all of Mr. Wills' Joe Wills' contact information. So please check it out. Show some love. Visit there. Like his Facebook page, his Instagram page. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. You'll see some phenomenal artwork. And that being said, I'll have Rick pull up some images that we got from Joe. And Joe, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a St. Louis-based artist, part of a group called the Illustrata, and we've kind of been drawing for a number of years. It's an artist collective where we kind of hang out and talk about comics and things like that. I'm also the artist and co-creator of Veil of Night for Page One Comics, and been with Page One Comics for a few months now with Jimmy Reyes and Dave Philpott. These images here are some of the images and prints from my website, joewillsart.com, and essentially I draw comics and I do my own take on kind of like 80s properties and things like that. For instance, we did earlier in the slide there was Gargoyles and the Calvin and Hobbes, Super Mario, things like that. And essentially what I like to do is just kind of take those properties that I liked and just do them in my own style and kind of beef everybody up and make them look like super cool. I just realized there's a YouTuber, James Reyes, the box office artist.
Yes, I was gonna say Jimmy Reyes.
Right.
I've heard of that name before.
Yeah, James Rice.
Right. Yeah, him, James Rice. He actually does this series where he does regular characters in the Marvel style, and he basically just kind of all he does is really make some really muscle bound and things like that. And I realize I've been doing that for years, so I guess that's the same thing. same thing that I'm doing.
You did it before him. You did it before him.
So, but yeah, that's what I like to do. Draw comics, and I've been doing comics for a number of years now. Started off with Ink and Drink Comics, which is a local local artist and writer collective here that get together once a month, and we basically talk about comics, and then we put out an anthology based off of drinking euphemisms. So, like, say for instance, one of the genres is fantasy. So the actual title of the book was Hammered, and one of the genres was sci-fi, so one of the titles of the book was Blasted, and you kind of get the gist of how it kind of went down.
I love it. That's
there
funny.
was a superhero genre, and they called it Liquid Courage, so it just kind of goes on from there. It's very punny. It's extremely punny, but it's really fun. And we hang out and talk about comics and do some cool stuff. And it's, like I said, it's an anthology that goes out. I think we could do like one or two or three a year. Right. And they've been circulating through Amazon and a few other places. So you can go there, inkanddrinkcomics.com. You can go and find them there. So although right now I'm with Page One Comics, and we are working on a property called Veil of Night. Essentially, Veil of Night is the story of Vic, as you're going to see in a moment here. The main character, she is a reluctant witch. She has powers within her that she does not understand. She's going to need to learn about those powers in order to stop an evil witch queen from basically accomplishing her goals that will eventually destroy the world that they live in. And that's basically how they that's the premise of the story, but there's a lot of crazy characters and ancillary situations that happen, some subplots that I really want to get into, but obviously we only have one issue to do all this, so I was talking.
And no spoilers. No spoilers. You don't do any spoilers.
Right, no spoilers. I was talking to Jerel last night, and there's so many things that I want to go into this first book that will have to wait until the next book, but I want to make sure that the first book is good enough to where we can get a next book. So it's like that balancing act between those two. But as you're saying right now, is the main character Vic, and then her adopted father Judan, and he is a former world-renowned blade master who takes in Vic after a situation happens with her and her mother, and she has to basically be protected and kept in secret for a long time. She basically is kept kind of in isolation from the rest of the world, so things don't find her without spoiling anything. And I think people will relate to this because she's basically cooped up in her home for a very long period of time, and obviously with the situation going on today, it's a very relatable story in that sense. So
yeah, the witch is pretty much the coronavirus, right? So
exactly. Yeah. There are some evil things out there in the world that are trying to come to retrieve her and bring her to the witch queen. She goes by Mother Night, which is the character with the wings there on the far right. And Vic, that's the first version of Vic in the middle there. She's been redesigned a bit, and but essentially there is this magical element called the Veil of Night, or the Veil, which the queen needs to accomplish her goals. And the key to this magical item is Vic. So that's kind of where the conflict lies. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's fantasy based. There's a lot of cool fantasy things that people will recognize if you've played D&D, if you've played pretty much any World of Warcraft, things like that. There's a lot of elements that I like to incorporate from the things that I like, and just kind of flesh out the world, and then some things that you've never seen before, some integrations from different mythologies and things like that. I wanted to make sure that gets in there as well, just to kind of flesh out the world and make sure that the story is nice and robust, and those characters have a lot of things to interact with. But yeah, that's essentially me in a nutshell.
That's cool.
Go
ahead.
That sounds really exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, it's gonna kill. It will kill. It's gonna be awesome. But before we start the drawing challenge, can you pull up the PDF one more time, Rick? I want to just talk a little bit about some of the things and scroll all the way up to the top. Some of the things that Joe and I talked a little bit about yesterday is that Joe is I put in our little description, he is a quadruple threat, but he's actually I don't even want to say the word because I think I'm gonna like screw it up.
Quintuple.
Anyway,
You're asking the Dane to help you? Okay.
Help me English, Dane. Help me English. Help the American English.
English,
anyway, he basically is a one-man machine. He writes, he pencils, he inks, he colors, and I wanted to put that he actually has 5 super duper talents. Duper. I'm using duper again. Super or duper. He has actually a super duper. He actually is a musician too. So I didn't know how I could work that into the comic itself because he like plays music while he's actually doing all his other talents. But one of the cool things that I learned about Joe is that he started out as just doing fan arts. Like he talked a little bit about that, things that just interested him. And then the Ink and Drink was his first foray into sequential comics, and just a brilliant transition. So I sort of showed all these things. This Calvin and Hobbes Spaceman Spiff updates, just brilliant. I love how he did that. And you can see from here, he went from the fan arts. And one of the things that I really love about Joe's portfolio of work, if you go check out his Instagram and his webpage, is you can see a kind of a diversity and an evolution of style. We see a lot of different things that Joe is capable of doing. And I think we had it's a really cool conversation. You see some obvious Mignola influences, some Madura influences.
And then, bam, suddenly.
And then anime. You have an anime manga look, too. And
that was actually a recent commission. Someone asked me to do, they wanted an original character based off of them as a character in the My Hero Academia world. And I asked them specifically, do you want it in my style, or do you want it to look like you're in the cartoon or in the actual anime? And she was like, ooh, yeah, can you make it look like I'm in the anime? And I'm like, sure, I could do that. So essentially what I did was I asked her what her favorite quirk would be, like what her quirk would be if she was in this world. And she was like, oh, I'm not sure, maybe something like Bakugo. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with My Hero Academia, but he has like basically these big gauntlets that look like hand grenades, and he has the ability to like basically just emit explosions at people. And so I was like, cool, I'll give you that general quirk, and I'll make it your own, that type of thing. Well, I didn't realize that her name was her first name was Tori, and her last name started with a T also. So I'm like, it's right there, TNT. I'll just call you TNT, And then I found out later that apparently in high school, that's what they called her because her middle name was Nicole. And I'm like, oh wow,
whoa, damn,
I'm like,
that's good.
Okay, that's the level of commission detail that Joe does. He researches his people that are commissioning him, and he makes it uniquely theirs. That's a cool story, and I think we can go back. Let's go up to the Calvin and Hobbes. There was an interesting story that Joe told me about the Calvin and Hobbes. Just brilliant. This is like art as therapy. So please tell us a little bit about the Calvin and Hobbes.
So the Calvin and Hobbes with the Spaceman Spiff character, a friend of mine actually had commissioned me to do a commission for Spaceman Spiff because she loves Calvin and Hobbes. Yeah. Well, it took a very long time to get that done, and she was going through. She had some sicknesses and some illnesses that made her have to go to the hospital multiple times, and she was going through like chemotherapy and things like that. And so she kept saying that it's fine, don't worry about it, it's no big deal. And she was so gracious and giving me the time to get it done that I had actually drawn it like 5 different times, because every time I started it and ended and stopped because of whatever project that I was working on, I would go back to it and say, no, I don't like this isn't good enough. So then I would start it all over again. So eventually it got to the point where I was like, you know what, I have to get this done. I feel bad putting her on hold. She's going through all these issues, health issues and everything. I want to do something special for her. So I gave her a Spaceman Spiff. And then she was like, so where's Hobbs? And I was like, well, when Spaceman Spiff does his, or when Calvin does his Spaceman Spiff, like playtime or imagination things, he doesn't actually have Hobbs with him. So she was like, well, can you add him in there? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. So I went back to the drawing board, I redrew it, and I came up with Spaceman Spiff and Commander Hobbs.
Commander,
and I tried to make it look kind of like more like a almost like a Han Solo Chewbacca type situation, but with a more like Nova Corps-esque kind of feel
Guardians
to it.
of the Galaxy.
Yeah, exactly. Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are the influences I had. So I basically drew this, and she was so elated. But because I took so long, I wanted to reward her even more for her patience. I gave her every other drawing that I did up until that point, because they were fully finished pencils. I didn't ink them, but they were fully finished pencils. So I gave her the original copies for each one of those, as well as a special thank you of in the Bill Watterson style, where it was Calvin and Hobbs giving her a hug. And she's drawn in that Bill Watterson style. So, and it said thank you at the bottom of it. So I gave her all of that, and she was extremely appreciative. And she's been a really good friend for a long time now, ever since then. And I think she just posted on Facebook that she had gone through her last round of, I think, chemotherapy. So it looks like everything's kind of looking really good for her health and everything. So I was really happy for her.
Yeah, that's just an example of you going above and beyond for commission and art as a healing therapy. But before we go a little bit further, I think Justin Acosta, there was a comment that popped up there. The character with the Gatling gun, is that Roadblock from?
Yes, that is. That's Roadblock from G.I. Joe. That's my take on Roadblock. That was the Roadblock from the original 80s version, not necessarily the rock version, which is fine. It's totally fine. He did his thing in the movie, and they've redesigned Roadblock on many occasions in the comics. He looks totally different now, but this is the way I remember seeing him, where he's like the bald head guy with the and he's like really outgoing, and he's got the guns out, and then the gun out. So
Roadblock of G.I. Joe, he's so iconic, and in fact they just redid a new 6-inch line of G.I. Joe figures, and it's more in kind of like this style, and I think Ken Lashley, Lead Killer, he did some of the concept art for it, and I'm looking at your stuff. It's great. And what I like about yours is that it's the whole, we got to make G.I. Joe, they can't have real guns. They have like he has like a rail gun now, and it's kind of cool, but it's not as cool as that Gatling gun. That's back from when the love from the 80s toys that we grew up with. But phenomenal artwork. I love what you're doing, and that catches us up to the present, where you're doing Veil of Night. That's under the page 1 comics banner, and let's scroll to the bottom, Rick, and we're gonna jump right into our challenge. But I want to give our audience a chance to look at our first character. Victoria will be our third one, so we'll come back to this later. The first one.
Fine.
My mental like ESP. It's like, Rick, we want to show you not, or we want to show you not. But I want our audience to know that this is so fresh. It's like so hot off the presses. I think, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, you just did this last night. Is that correct?
Yes. I realized that I had been doing so much writing for Veil of Night that I hadn't actually redesigned those characters based off the new script. So I really wanted to have these characters ready for today's broadcast, because honestly, when it comes to promoting anything, I would really love to promote Veil of Night. I have other projects that are in various stages of completion, but this one is the one that I'm putting all my heart and soul into right now. So I wanted to make sure that they got their due, and I was like, wait, I didn't design the characters yet. So
this is a treat.
Yes, yeah, definitely. This is
you didn't even do the headshot.
Right. I hadn't even finished the full character layout, because I was going to do front bag headshot and did some action poses. So actually today, when we do the fan art for Jidan, I'm probably going to use that as some of the action poses, and maybe even do a headshot if I have time.
Right.
So.
And remember guys, we want you to be part of this, so draw along with us, and you can send your finished art afterwards into Comicscast DMs, and we will show it here in the last 10 minutes of the show. It'll be really exciting to see how you're doing, how you do it. You probably will do better than Jerel, but
here we go. He's thrown down the gauntlet. And just so you know, Rick even used the word finished art. I'm going to take it. I know that Joe is going digital. This is another treat. This one of the things that we're doing differently today is that we're going to go digital. So we're going to isolate his screen, so you'll get to see in all its glory Joe go digital, and you'll be able to see it much better than what I'm going to do. If you want to share my camera, my art cam,
I'd rather not, but okay.
Mine's going to be the little camera at the bottom. So and you know, we're just going to go ahead and start drawing here, and Judon. And another thing is that Rick has been such a phenomenal timekeeper for us, so he's going to keep us honest. I think we'll start with let's start with, is 15 minutes sound good, Rick? And then maybe if it's so pathetic and I need more time, then maybe you can give me 5 more minutes after that.
No.
So there's your answer, audience. I'm gonna call Rick. He's gonna be the.
Okay, the time starts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right, here
15
we go.
minutes from now.
Okay.
Done.
Okay. All right. So while we're doing this, I'm gonna put you to the test a little bit, Joe. Do you want to give us a little bit of a background about what you can reveal? No spoilers, unless you want to give it to us. A little bit about, because you know I'm all about getting spoilers and getting stuff. If you want to tell us a little bit about Judon, and that way we can get a feel for who he is in Veil of Night.
So Judon is essentially he's a retired blade master in the world of Veil of Night. He's a man of renown and definitely a lot of discipline. He's been called on by different nations to train their armies and their soldiers, especially their elite soldiers. But he hasn't done that in maybe 15 years or so. He was also part of a secret rebellion against the Mother Night. That it was basically an uprising that actually failed. It's one of those situations. It's kind of like Star Wars, where it was like the old wow,
the
Empire and the rebels,
Okay.
And they lost. Basically, the rebels just valiantly lost. So,
okay.
But some of the remaining members that survived, they weren't as. They basically went into hiding, and he kind of went undercover and kind of was able to basically keep his titles and everything because no one knew that he was involved in the rebellion. So he was secretly involved in the rebellion, and the mother of the main character sees him as definitely a friend to her, and because he was one of the leaders of the rebellion, and so essentially what happens is she brings her daughter to him to raise while she goes into hiding because of a situation that happens within the first few pages of Veil of Night. So he's one of those father figures. Vic's father dies off screen, kind of Disney-esque, where, where the parents aren't really involved. But her mother is there's a mystery behind her mother and why all this needed to happen. So essentially, now I'm trying to go from memory here. I can't remember what his costume looks like.
That's okay. You can just tell as much as because it's kind of like it's an evolving process. You're still fleshing everything out, but that's the gist of his background story, right?
Yeah, and
you're the creator. You decide how he looks.
right.
You could say that. Yeah. You can add stuff at will, So
he can wear a mankini and no one can tell you otherwise.
Very true.
A mankini. Okay.
Yeah,
that's very popular. It's very popular in Denmark. So.
But yeah, he's a big burly black dude. He's definitely got a lot of speed and skill that is very hidden, because you look at him and he looks slow and lumbering because he's like this big guy with a lot of muscle, but his muscle is from years and years of he's got like dad strength basically.
yeah, exactly.
It's like years and years of training and things like that. So he looks pretty big and like he's slow, but if you get him into a fight with a sword, it's pretty much a done deal. you're gonna go down. So that's essentially his whole thing. He's an older guy though, so he's probably lost half a step, but not too much to the point where he can't take down a skilled fighter that's half his age still. So,
right.
yeah, he's got that kind of strength here.
So refresh my memory in terms of like how did he get in, or like how did he become the adoptive father again for Victoria?
So Victoria's mom took from a very young age. Vic was with Judan, and mainly because of a situation that happens within the first few pages of Veil of Night, and she basically doesn't feel that it's safe for Vic to be around her anymore. So she has to find someone that she trusts to raise her, and also somebody that she trusts to train her, because there's some aspects about Vic that that I can't go into that requires her to have control of her emotions, control of her. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily spoiler. She has a magical ability. I mean, I've already kind of stated that.
Right.
And her magical abilities, just like most stories when it comes to magic, they're based off her emotional state. Like she can't fly off the handle because things will happen. And if she doesn't control herself, then essentially bad people can
Bad things
find
happen.
out where she is.
Oh yes, yeah.
So essentially she's trying to protect her, and she uses Judan as a kind of a buffer to say, okay, this guy will train her and teach her discipline, and will definitely make sure that she is not found by anybody. And even if she was found by somebody, he's strong enough to protect her. So that's she kind of has that kind of confidence in Judan's skill. So.
And so, in terms of Judan, I know that you said he was a sword master, and I was listening to. I wasn't involved. I wasn't hosting, of course, the ART yesterday, but I was listening to you guys talk a little bit about some of the ancillary characters, and I remember hearing a little bit about the Hex Knights, and I know that you can't get into too much details about who the Hex Knights are, but we sort of hinted. We showed some of the art of the Hexblade weapons. There are some of their cool weapons. Is there something that you can kind of talk about a little? Is that spoiler territory in terms of?
Well, so I realized that there's some information that I let out that
So I should
combined with other information becomes spoiler.
Okay, we don't have to go into that then. If that's
I mean, what I can say is that every Hex Knight has a very specific blade. The hilt is the same, but the blade shape is based off their own personal style, their own personal fighting style, and things like that. And the what the Blade Master can do is basically the reason why he's so famous is because he knows all blade styles. That was one of the things that's kind of unique about Judan. The reason why he's so famous or world renowned, even in his retirement, is the fact that he's trained every blade person who has a blade, and trained every person who every style. So he essentially when I say Blade Master, he literally can work with any type of bladed weapon, and he is a master at each one of them, and he can show anybody how to use them. So essentially, he's been called on from various factions, whether good or bad, to train their soldiers. So I mean, he's had encounters with Mother Knight. He has had encounters with the good guys of the storyline, and he's not a double agent, or he's essentially, I guess you could say, kind of double agent in a sense that he's worked for the bad guys, but unwillingly. Because they, at that time when he was helping Mother Knight, it wasn't that he was helping Mother Knight. He was basically just putting on the front because of the fact that he was part of the rebellion.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. As I was going to say, when you said that he worked for the, he was almost like a mercenary, or it sounded like he was a mercenary, but you kind of like said that it's not that wasn't the case. He was kind of like put in that position where he had to work for the bad guys. Yeah.
Exactly, and it was like he definitely had to put on the false face of acquiescence. He basically was working with her to train certain soldiers, and once you get to a certain level, you get the hilt of the sword, and then from there you kind of get the style of blade. The style of blade comes from being assessed, and basically they figure out what style works best with you, and then you get trained fully into that style. And that's kind of it's basically how you kind of understand the different knights and what they do. And in the Hex Knights, in the case of the Hex Knights, all the Hex Knights actually have their own blades as well. And
5 minutes.
What? 5 minutes? Okay, go ahead.
Oh God. Let's see. Okay, this doesn't look good at all. Okay.
I'm sort of put you on the spot there to talk and draw at the same time.
Right.
Look how the speed suddenly changed to both of you.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a heads up, Joe, is that sometimes Rick messes with us, or he messes with me actually. He tells, I don't know if we really only have 5 minutes, but he likes to watch me squirm a little bit in terms of.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to be nice today. But Joe, in your show, in this comic, I want to see this blade master kill someone with a butter knife at some point.
I was gonna say letter opener, but then I was like thinking to myself, did they have letter openers back then? But you're right.
A butter knife would be so much better. I mean, he's the master of all blades, and a butter knife has a blade.
Yes,
very true. That's very true.
He'd be like John Wick, he killed a man with a pencil. He killed a man with a butter knife,
Just because you said that, it's going in. It's going
in.
Rick.
Thank you.
I haven't finished the script, so that's definitely something that's going in.
Okay. So it'll be a combination Rick and John Wick reference. Rick and John Wick. Oh my gosh, here we go. So Rick and John Wick.
Justin Acosta asks, what year is it? Is the story based? Is it the future or medieval?
It's more medieval, but it's very stylized. It's a very stylized medieval. Think more like that's what I was saying before, like kind of World of Warcraft, D&D style, where it's kind of loose. It's fast and loose with its kind of time period. So it's really, it can be far future where people they reverted back to like the old ways, or it could be really, really far past, but it's definitely not Earth. They're not on Earth. The name of the world that they reside in is called Dathalia, and Dathalia is basically their it's my fictional planet that they are on, and some of their the typography obviously is different, and I didn't want to be as cliche and do like the little the Lord of the Rings kind of map where it's like the side of a continent or whatever the case is, and then you kind of don't see the rest of the world. So it's like, is all this just happening over here? What's happening on like the west coast of this?
They're having coffee and tea over there. Don't annoy them.
what
yeah.
Yeah, they're having coffee and tea over there.
Oh, yeah. Was it Mother Knight? Is that her?
Yeah,
Mother.
Yeah,
she hasn't come over there yet. So
right.
That'll be for issue 200, because I imagine that it's going to get to 200 issues here. So, how are we looking at?
2 minutes left.
2 minutes. We got 2 minutes.
But see, I can see Joe. You guys get another 5 minutes.
Okay, we got 5 minutes. Okay, we got an extra 5 minutes there. So basically, yeah, I'm just gonna I haven't even looked at what you're looking at, but I imagine your digital lines look much cleaner. So I'm just gonna try and bold this, make it bold.
No, they do not.
I'm just gonna try and like go over these lines a little bit quicker so it can show up a little bit more. But yeah, I like the whole backstory that you kind of alluded to in terms of Judon. Is there like his name? Is there something unique about his name, or is it you just like the way Judon sounds? Is there?
Yeah, I kind of just like the way it sounds. I was gonna do the cliche, just like go to the name generator and try to figure it out.
Oh, there's that. So that's the secret. I thought that when people come up with these names, there's like this whole language, and Judon means first killer of the wolf at twilight, so like there was some sort of like deeper meaning, behind it. But
no, there's definitely no deeper meaning behind it. I did want to incorporate like different languages, different like real life languages into different ways. Like, like his last name is Dantes, but he's black. And honestly, Dantes is more of a wow, my vocabulary is just losing. I'm just losing it, all my words.
It's okay. I'm 6-year-old. So
are you all mocking me and my accent today? Is that it?
No.
You guys have a hard time with your first language.
I know. We're waiting for the Dane to correct our English. We're Americans, so so. But anyway, his whole name Dantes. I mean, that sounds like French, I guess. Dantes.
Yeah, like French or definitely French. And honestly, the reason why I went with Dantes is because I love that name ever since the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yes, I love that.
With Jim Caviezel. Actually, not the book, because I haven't read the book, because I'm not even going to pretend to be that smart. But because of that movie, I was like, man, that is just a really cool name.
It is. And, that was a good movie. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, years ago, I was like, I'm definitely going to use that sometime. One day, I'm going to use this name. And I just happened to be in a position where I could use it today. So,
and a little known fact. This is like random movie trivia. That Count of Monte Cristo. Guess what famous super duper hero was actually was in that movie? And
oh yeah.
You know where I'm going with it.
Yes, I do.
Okay,
a very young Henry Cavill was in there.
Yes, he looks tiny.
He looks so small.
It's like, I only know him as Superman, and in terms of being super buff and just super duper buff, I'm gonna use that word like throughout this whole cast. But anyway, it's like I just rewatched that movie. I think was it a couple months ago, and I was like, that's Henry Cavill. It's like just doesn't look like the Henry Cavill that we know from The Witcher and from Superman. So I invite all of our audience to go watch The Count of Monte Cristo, because it had Guy Pearce was in it.
Yes,
phenomenal.
And Guzman, Luis Guzman, as the manservant who he is so good in that role.
He is.
Satara, I think you should take the money and run, Satara. Just leave this. This is madness, Satara.
You got it down completely. So maybe we need to go to like a sextuple, I guess. That's what you can do. That's your sixth superpower. You can do actor impersonation. So all right.
Yeah, I do a mean Sean Connery too. So
okay, before we end, we're gonna have a Sean Connery impersonation. How much time we got? We got 1 minute.
2 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Wait, it was 2 minutes. 2 minutes ago.
Oh, good. I'm glad we got a little bit more time.
Right. That's right.
I said
I'm not
2
complaining
minutes.
though.
I gave you 5 minutes.
That's very true. You're right.
Oh, well, that's 3 minutes according to my math. But there's 2 minutes now.
Yeah. All right.
Quick, give him a mankini, Joe. You can do it. You want to.
That's definitely on the list of things that I need to do for this character.
And Rick has like a photo library of mankini shots that he has that he can call up at any moment.
I've taken them myself as well.
So, there's probably like a catalog where Rick has modeled the mankini for he's like the most famous mankini model in Denmark. We just don't know about it.
Someone had to.
Because no one else wanted to.
I was young. I was stupid.
He needed the money because he was going to law school, and
but that was last week, though.
Well, I was young last week, Joe. Okay.
Joe is he's throwing back some talk there, some smack. That's good.
I was younger last week than I am today, Joe.
Very true. Very true. That is a true statement there. I think I changed the size of my brush and it threw me all the way off here.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm just gonna add shadow. That's the trick. Is when you
Half
can't
a minute.
That
when
is
you
the
don't
trick.
have time.
Add
Just
shadow. Put it in
add
shadow.
shadow. Put it
Or
in
like,
shadow.
or if you want, what was if I ever advance the coloring, because I'm still on the elementary level of just penciling messily. If I get to color, you just color dodge it. You color burn it.
15.
Kind of make it more saturated. 15 seconds.
10.
Oh, okay. Here
Oh
we
no.
go.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe this is what I did.
5.
And I'm on digital. I should not be this bad. Okay, sorry.
Whoa! The kazoo warning. All right, so let's take a look at. Oh my gosh! Here I am. I'm looking at. That looks. Oh, well, let's show.
Oh wow.
Joe first.
Yours is way better. It's way better. As a matter of fact, I'm changing the design to what you just did.
What? I based my design on yours, but I like the power stance that you got on yours. And I understand what you're saying with the shadow, but that adds depth. Let's go. Don't show mine. Get rid of mine.
No, that's good. I like this one. This is really cool. And that sword is dope. Just by the way, that sword is killer. I love that.
It's all based off your character sketches and the Hex Knight sword blade. So anyway, that was just something that I threw together. And let's go back to Joe's. I love this because you definitely get a sense of the determinate. Even though it's rough, you get to see the power stance. The shadow gives it the depth where he's coming at you, and it makes it feel. You could definitely say this is the guy who's coming for your head.
Yeah.
Don't mess
I
with
usually
her.
go just to preface this and honestly to make excuses. I usually go over it like 5 times. Like there's usually like 5 passes. If as a matter of fact, last night when I was designing the characters, especially for Vic, or no, for Judan, they kept saying, dude, you drew that mouth 6 times. it's like because I kept drawing it, erasing it, drawing it, erasing it, drawing. And they're like, he needs a mouth. It's like, give him a mouth.
That's where you go. You go. Dang it! I'm the creator. If I want to draw his mouth 6 times, I'm gonna draw his mouth 6 times. So get off my back.
I only did that up here. That way I don't come off as a prima donna. So
well, you know what? You talk about that, and there's another artist that I'm sure that you know about, Kim Jung-gi.
Oh yeah.
That guy, he doesn't make mistakes. It's all like in his head. And when he draws, I used to think there was a thin outline of whatever he was drawing, but it's all in his head. And he does these crazy like fisheye lens stuff. He just does, and every line that he does is just deliberate. He knows where every line goes, and not that I'm going to put myself in the same boat as you, because your boat is much taller than my boat, because my boat's like basically like it's a life raft basically. But I'm so indecisive, and that's the reason why I have kind of like sketchy lines. But you know what? I think when you do sketchy lines, there's also an energy that's there as well. I think.
It also helps you if you aren't 100% sure how a certain thing should look like. Sketchy lines will help you, like accidentally make a good-looking nose, as an example,
or a mouth 6 times.
A mouth.
6 times. Yeah.
I got a question here.
What's that?
When creating new characters, do you pull from real life, like friends and family and etc.?
Everyone says, and I agree with this, most artists, when they draw characters, especially when they're coming up with characters, facial features and how people look in comics, they almost look like the artist that's drawing them. So I don't necessarily pull from the people that I know, but I subconsciously put my own facial features in pretty much every drawing or every character.
I can see that.
Judan
is hella sexy, so I can see that.
All right. It's like Rick is schooling us on slang, American slang.
Right.
Hella sexy. Joe is bringing sexy back.
Right. Yeah, I wish. No, I normally when I draw characters, I just draw whatever kind of looks cool. And sometimes, like if you look at Mark Silvestri's work, Mark Silvestri's characters, if you look at a picture of Mark Silvestri and then like one of his main male characters, you're like, did you draw yourself? Were you looking in the mirror when you drew this? And not saying that like, all of his characters look the same, but for some reason there's like this certain aesthetic, like how long or how short he draws a nose, or how wide or how small he draws a mouth. But if you look at a picture of the artist, like for instance Jim Lee, all of his characters, if you were to put like Batman, Superman next to a picture of Jim Lee straight on, it'll look like he drew himself as these characters.
It's like when Jerel draws Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's Jerel.
I try and make the nose. That's the whole thing, you know. It has to look like this Filipino nose. That's what it has to look like.
Oh, that's a nose. Oh, that's a nose. Oh, okay.
No, Rick didn't even know it was a nose. So I've obviously got a long way to go because I can't.
Must be out of focus.
Yeah. Right.
So you have a great. That's a great point, Joe. Because have you seen Mark Silvestri's wife? She looks just like a lot of his female characters. It's like
and see, it's definitely that. It's definitely like you don't do it. You don't do it. Well, I mean, some people. I mean, Alex Ross might do it, you know, because he uses actual models, you know, that kind of thing. But for the most part, most artists they draw what they think looks cool, and it subconsciously they end up pulling information from all over the place, and all of a sudden you'll see a character. It's like, Mark, is that me? No. What are you talking about? That's velocity. What are you talking about? That looks nothing. Oh.
Well, you know, Joe, what we're gonna do if we draw things that we kind of that we like, or that things that we're all gonna make our characters look like Rick, because Rick is just the prime human.
It would be an insta stellar.
Everybody.
Wow.
I'm definitely gonna put that. I'm gonna put that beard on some character in my book. I'm gonna definitely put that beard on. I'm just gonna.
And you know what? Put it on the guy that gets the butter knife. I don't care. It's okay. I don't mind dying.
Put a knife through the beard, and that's Rick.
No, he can't put a knife through a beard, Jerel. A beard is too strong.
A beard it's like bulletproof or swordproof.
Yeah.
It actually has little hands and it blocks.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna pull a poke. It's mithril. Beards of mithril. Yeah.
My beard knows Wing Chun, guys. So be careful. I don't. My beard does.
It catches the blade like this and just goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you know, Joe. There's one other thing, Joe. Rick is the Chuck Norris of Denmark.
Oh wow.
No, my beard is.
Yes, so like, you know, people make jokes. I mean, about like how, you know, how strong Denmark is. It's as strong as Rick's beard. So, but anyway, let's we digress. We're getting off subject here. So, is there any fan art? Did anybody like draw along with us, Rick? Do you know?
I have not gotten any messages that anybody has drawn so far, but hopefully with one of the next ones.
Yes. So that being said, let's move to challenge number 2, drawing challenge, and number 2 is basically going to be
Let's go.
Yes. What was that?
Yeah.
It's going to be guest choice, and what is it? Joe told us he revealed that guest choice to me this morning, so it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for me to kind of figure out what I'm going to draw. But Joe, tell us a little bit about who we're going to draw for number 2.
And why?
Why?
So ever since Hoxpox, House of X, Powers of 10 came out by Pepe Raz and Marte Gracia and Jonathan Hickman, I've been just totally enamored. I always liked this character, but ever since I saw Pepe Raz draw him, I've been totally enamored by Apocalypse. And just like the mask that he puts on him, and just like all the detail, and he just looks really cool. And that's the character that I chose, was basically the Pepe Larraz version of Apocalypse, if I can remember how he looks.
In a mankini.
In a mankini.
He's not gonna let it go.
He's gonna have one of these on.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I'm a huge fan of Pepe Larraz and that storyline in itself, because I know that he's doing Empire right now.
Empire, and also I want to say X of Blades, or
Blades of X,
Swords.
Yeah,
it's new. I've been following him on Instagram, and everything that he posts, I'm like, like.
Yes.
Can I like this more than once?
I know.
Like
Heart. Can I do lots of heart? But you're right. Pepe Larraz is on a kill streak. Everything that he touches looks phenomenal, and he's one of my favorite artists and influences as well. And Apocalypse, he definitely had a nice take on it. I think there was the trade paperback had him in a suit, I think.
Oh yeah, he was in a bit. I was like, oh my god.
I was like, you never would have expected that. But I loved Apocalypse since he was introduced with like X Factor back in the 80s. But
yeah,
let's start the clock. Rick, we'll get another maybe 15 minutes to do Apocalypse. Does that sound good?
You'll get 20 now.
Okay, all right, good.
Okay.
All right, let's start.
Wait. I'll count down in a second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay.
And we are off.
So, aside, did you read the X Factor books with Apocalypse? I mean, he's definitely changed or evolved, I guess. They made him kind of like an Egyptian mutant, or actually, is he like the first mutant now? I think is that what they're kind of.
Well, it always was one of those things where he's been considered either the first mutant or like the father of mutants, or whatever you want to call him, and he's always had this kind of Egyptian kind of thing where he had influences from Egypt culture and all that kind of stuff. But during House of X and Powers of X, they said that he had some ties to Krakoa and some kind of ancient kind of relationship with Krakoa. So it was like a really cool, refreshing way. I haven't read the new X Factor or anything. Believe it or not, I haven't even finished House of X, Power of X when it comes to reading it, because I was so enamored by the art. I was so taken.
I know.
I start reading it. I always do this. I start it. I get maybe 3 or 4 pages in, and then I just started flipping pages, like staring at the art and just ogling it. And I'm like, crap. I'm already like 100 pages in and have not read a single panel.
I know what you're talking about. I mean, back when I elementary school, when I picked up those comic books, I didn't have as many, but when I was reading them, it's like I memorized how the panels looked. I memorized how I could tell you what was on page 12, panel 5. It's because because now it's like you read some comics and sometimes you just thumb through them really fast and read the story and that's it. But when you got those artists that you really love, you're studying how they built each page. And and I think that's you as a independent creator pushing your own book. You're putting those into practice. You're getting to show that kind of attention to love in terms of doing your sequentials based on that kind of analysis. I think.
Yeah, that's definitely true, because I spend most of my time just studying other artists, and I because I'm writing and I was writing Children of Ragnarok as kind of my pet project that I've been kind of playing with for like the last few years before I started doing Veil of Night.
I was going to see that to the end, but go ahead. Talk about it.
But that was initially going to be prose, and I started it, and I had like 3 or 4 chapters in. Writing it as a book, and ever since I started kind of doing more writing, I started thinking about the fact that I need to start following more writers in regards to comics rather than just artists, because it's not just a visual medium. There's a lot of stories that are really cool, and some of the stories really, depending on the artist, sometimes the art is just okay, but the story is just phenomenal. So.
Right.
And I never want to take away from the fact that, writing is also an art form. And as I've been writing more, I've been, I guess, growing up more of appreciation for writers rather than just the artists. But, art is always going to be it's going to be my thing, So, again, just the whole idea of House of X, Powers of X being drawn by Pepe Larraz and being colored by Marte Gracia, who is an awesome colorist. And I cannot stress enough how much I love this guy's colors specifically on like Stuart Eminem and R.B. Silva and pretty much all the cool artists nowadays that I follow on Instagram or whatever the case is. Like it always draws me towards the art, and then I get so caught up.
I feel you. I know what you're talking about. When the art is that good. when the art is that good, it's like you want to, and you were talking to me about this last night, is that you analyze those artists and you want to like, it's not like you want to copy them. You see what and this is what, when we were talking about your influences, like when we showed some of your art earlier, and you had like some studies that you did of Mignola, and it wasn't because you wanted to cop their style. You want to, you told me about your approach to it is to kind of see why does it work, why is it so appealing? And that's what I appreciate about when we were talking to you yesterday, is that you have a very analytical approach to how you're not copying a style, you're analyzing and seeing why does it work and how can I incorporate that into my repertoire, in terms of that. That's what basically your MO, right? Like what you want to do.
And I definitely do that mainly because of the fact that I want to improve my own art style, and I want to see why people are so enamored by another person's art style, and what is it that this person does that people really are drawn to, besides the fact that Mike Mignola, the fact that his art is so awesome, but it's so weird too. And it's like that weird factor really kind of plays outside of just the fact that his art is just phenomenal, but that weird factor does play a role as well. But his use of shadow and
positive, negative
light,
space,
negative space, just all of that is it's just great how he does it. And I really I that was lacking in my own art. I have a tendency to draw very open line work, and everything kind of be a little bit airy, mainly because I want to color it. And when it comes to coloring, like the more open areas, you can kind of play around with the colors and do some cool stuff. Plus I, with my other influences that I've already mentioned, they tend to have a lot of rendering and things like that.
Yes.
So it's not a whole lot of room for really dark shadows, but that brings the drama. Those shadows and those areas of just stark black, that's where all the drama lies when it comes to lighting and things like that. And it was totally lacking in my drawing, in my arts. So I wanted to make sure that I had that duality where it was some cool images, and then also like some like nice areas of openness, but then that contrast as well, so I can get the contrast and just make it look cool basically.
Yeah, I think that with Mike Mignola, and I actually see this in your studies and your art, is that it's that because I come from a graphic design background, and they always push the less is more type thing. And with Mignola, he finds ways to simplify things down, but it's so brilliant in its execution that it tells a story that maybe other artists would take hours and hours and hours of rendering to try and tell a particular story, and he just does it so simply with a fewer panels and just very well placed lines, and then just blocking out positive and negative space. And I see that in some of your sequentials that you showed. You definitely are taking those into account when you're rendering your pieces.
And that's all from Mignola. that's all from me, because all I did, like for a good, I don't know, like a month or whatever the case is, I would just look at Mignola art, and look at his panels, his page layouts, and just realize that he was doing less is more. He's been doing it for years.
Yes.
And it's so cool how he puts so little into a panel, and it says so much.
And it
a
tells
lot
a
of
great
his
story.
Hellboy.
Yeah.
He's a really good storyteller. He's one of the masters, one of the greats. He's definitely up there on my list of people that have been doing art and doing storytelling the right way. And I think I got a chance to meet him once at I think he was, I want to say that he came to St. Louis for a comic convention. And it was very brief, and we didn't like have a conversation or anything, but he was just doing commissions, and I just kind of stood there and just basically lurked. Just like sat there and just mouth open, slack jawed, like, oh my God.
It's like, pick your mouth off the floor, type. Like, I understand completely, because that's, when you see it's like, I've been totally, starstruck when you go to the few cons that I went to. I've been to New York Comic-Con a couple of times. I've been to Baltimore, is really close to me, so I go there a lot. And it's sort of like when you see that artist, it's like you don't even know what to say to them. You just want to sit there and just take in what they're drawing, and just you're like, wow. So that's the whole process, and that's one of the things that I really like about Let It Out is that when I'm going to put you on that same pedestal as Magnola, Joe,
Wow.
and I'm going to have you. It's like we get to see what what independent comic creators do. We get to see them draw live, and I think that's the wonderful thing about the internet and these live streams is that we get to see these artists in action, get to see what their process is. And if it means drawing a mouth 6 times, then so be it. Draw the mouth 6 times, type thing. But yeah, I totally dig your art style, and that's I can see the influences in terms of where you've gone and what you're a student. It's like you've developed a unique style based on studying a lot of different artists.
And believe it or not, some of them aren't even a lot of them are my friends. I have a few friends in the Illustrata.
Yes.
Most of my
I forgot to talk about that. Let's Illustrata. Talk about
most
that.
of my jump in art ability. Right. That was one of the first things that I commented on. I'm like, dude, do we really want to go with this name? Because there's some and they were like, no, it's different enough. It's different enough. And I'm like, all right. Nobody's gonna say Illuminati. Okay, no, that's fine. It's fine. But yeah, obviously.
I just did.
So tell us about this. Is the St. Louis art scene that you're talking about?
Yeah.
You have a group called the Illustrata, and I was thinking it was like mafia-esque, and then Rick, when I told Rick, he goes, "It sounds like the Illuminati," and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm pretty sure that because we were voting on a name, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to go with this?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's different enough." But that, essentially, it used to be 7 of us, but we're thinking about expanding and adding more members. But essentially, we are just some artists that have been working in and out of the industry, whether independent or for kind of mainstream companies for the last few years. And we're friends. We hang out and we try to catch up with each other as much as possible. But essentially, we just, we talk about comics. We share our art that we've been doing recently with each other to kind of get critiques. And as we were saying the other night, we kind of it's what was it, blade steel sharpens steel type situation.
Right.
Where basically we get critiques from each other and we respect each other's opinions. We have people in the group that do really amazing colors, that do inks, that are pencilers and inkers. We have some double and triple and quadruple threats in there as well. That do all the story that they've been hired to do. They do all the artwork, all the lettering, all that stuff. And we've had a moderate success for the most part. Some of us have worked for Marvel and DC and Boom Studios and some independent companies that have hired for storyboard artists and things like that. So yeah, we basically try to encourage each other and try to help each other grow as artists. And it's really a cool community. And again, we were really selective in who was part of the group, but we realized we're not, we don't want to be that kind of group. So,
no homos allowed.
Right.
But if there are hobos with mankinis,
right.
With great beards, I think Rick, you have a chance. You can get into the Illustrata.
Yeah.
Then I have to move to wherever that is, and I don't wanna.
You're missing
Yeah,
out.
it's all right now. We're all online because it's a Discord channel essentially. Now we do meet up occasionally, and we try to hang out and have some food and pizza and that kind of thing. Maybe meet at a restaurant or whatever
Food
the case
and
is.
pizza. I like how you said that.
Yeah, it's
Pizza
two
is
separate things. Pizza is not a food apparently.
Pizza is its own food group. It has
Right.
its own food
Its
group.
own thing.
But we try to hang out and just talk and just catch up with each other since we don't get a chance to really do that because of COVID and everything. So we once all this kind of passes over, then we'll start regularly hanging out. As it's funny, I say regularly hanging out. We didn't hang out as regularly as I would hoped even before all this happened. So technically, we're probably already where we were before.
Well,
when it comes.
I love that story because even though you could still, even if you had people locally, that'd be great because I think that kind of adds a little personal touch to it. But the wonders of the internet, you don't necessarily have to have that that super connection. But like here, we're basically sketch jamming like we were in a coffee shop right now, and but we can do it. We got Rick who's in Denmark, and I'm out here, in Northern Virginia, and you're out in St. Louis. So it's sort of like geography is not so much important anymore. We can all do what we do. We get to meet people. We get to do certain things. We get to see each other's styles and learn from each other. So I think that's although it would be nice to meet face to face. I think we find ways around it.
He's like, yeah, I don't know about.
I like you, Jerel, but no. I'm kidding.
He's not gonna come visit me to like hang out, meet with me. He doesn't want to be seen with me. That's what it is.
It's like, yeah, you embarrass me. No.
I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, it's funny that it took a pandemic for everyone to really realize that we're closer than we really are.
I mean, exactly. I mean, look at all the artists that just decided to go online, like David freaking Finch does a live stream every Sunday now on YouTube. I mean, come on, how awesome is that? And he has to do it. Wait until the pandemic to do it. Well, I guess he's also not as busy with work now these days as he might have been before the pandemic. But
yeah,
it's just good. There's so many artists that started doing it. I mean, Jim Lee did it like a long time before, but I guess when you're the boss of DC, it's easier. you don't work as much.
Yeah, he's got special, special situation because the fact that I mean, like, I know you're busy because you're like the boss, but you're the boss, so it's like.
Yeah. And what I like about Jim Lee too is that when all the comic shops were being, I mean, they're still in dire straits, but he had that auction where he was like drawing. He had a drawing or an auction every day to help raise money to support. So support the comic book store community. So it was great because you got to see Jim Lee kind of like free from any type of restraint in terms, like he was experimenting with styles. He was doing characters you hadn't seen him do before. It was a treat to see that, and like you said,
it was good. It was good to see his artist appreciation fan side of him rather than his CEO's side.
Definitely.
And it's sort of like finding that kind of that blessing in the pandemic. I have to say that I would not have been doing Comics Cast. I wouldn't have met Rick. I wouldn't have met you.
Damn it, Corona.
So Rick, you won't ditch me. I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna troll you till you die. I'm gonna be.
I can't ditch you, Jerel. You're so ugly when you cry, so I can't do that to the world.
After we do these let it outs, I go, man, that's all the time I have with Rick. I think I'm gonna go cry on my pillow.
That's understandable. That's the effect I have on people. Just wait, Joe. Just wait. You'll feel it.
I'm already starting to feel it right now. just thinking about later on. I'm like, no, wait.
So
it's affecting my drawing, actually.
I know. It's like I can't hold back the tears. It's like the tears of withdrawal.
I'll send you some pictures to remember me by.
No mankinis, though.
He's gonna send you a catalog.
Well, what? Well, forget about it then.
You know what? No one's gonna send us any artwork. They're gonna send us pictures of mankinis.
Oh! You got just under 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Wow!
We got 2 minutes. Right.
Oh wow! Really? Oh goodness gracious! I am not prepared for this. It's funny. I don't realize how long I take to draw, and maybe that's the reason why people get so frustrated with me. Because I'm like, "What are you talking about? It only took me 5 minutes." Joe, that was 3 hours ago. What are you talking about? Well, I get lost in the art, and then I realize, oh crap, time.
Good art takes time, and you just invent a time machine, so that way you can, churn out your stuff and not have to worry about time.
This is with the time machine. I don't know.
And then we go over to Jerel, just fine adjusting, scribbling slightly here and there now because he doesn't know where to go on from here.
I'm just trying to get stuff darker. That's I'm adding shadows, and I'm like Rick would always he's like, how can I make Jerel nervous? Oh, I'll tell him that he has 2 minutes to draw, and then all of a sudden you see my scribbling gets more fast and furious as we're moving along.
It's just fun to see that small panic in Jerel when I tell him how far.
It's the small joys
in
life.
Yeah, Rick looks forward to it every Sunday. It's like, let's see, what can I do to make Jerel squirm? But
15 seconds.
Oh, are you serious? No. It was just 2 minutes, like a second ago.
No, you really need to get a better time understanding, Joe. I'm sorry to say.
I have horrible time. Like my brain doesn't actually exist in this timeline.
Well, you said it, not me. I mean, what? No, sorry. Oh, I forgot it was Jerel I needed to be.
Oh, you forgot who to be mean to.
Sometimes I get confused.
You can't be mean to our guests. You can't be mean. You can be mean to me, but you can't be mean to our guests.
So self-deprecation is okay, but if it's not self-deprecation, then you gotta curb that. You gotta curb that, or else they won't come back. No, it's fine.
All right.
I'll send him some pictures after, and he'll forget all about I insulted him.
That's exactly how it
works. Okay. Well, I'm gonna put my pencil down because I got nowhere to go. I scribbled as much as I can scribble.
No. Well, okay, I'm done.
Okay, let's.
Why are you going on then?
I don't know what it's a delay in the video. That's what it is.
That's what it is. St. Louis
I've actually already stopped. I don't know what you're talking about.
But okay, Joe, I want to give you a little heads up, a little secret. We kind of struggle here, but the truth of the matter is that you will have the opportunity to polish this up, and we want to.
Okay.
You can do it a little because we really just want to get a gist of your style, and we're gonna put these on Instagram and our Facebook page. And you can spend a couple days if you want to get to me middle of next week. Just let me because really. It's all about doing a sketch jam, getting to know your thought process, and I can already tell. Look at this, Rick. The foundation is there. And he's still drawing.
I'm not drawing. I know what you're talking about.
I'm not drawing. You're drawing.
Can you zoom in, Joe, to his face? I'd like to see his face. Let's zoom in a little bit.
Can you zoom in on his face?
Oh yeah. Let's see. Yeah,
look at that. I can see that he has that kind of that smirk a little bit of where he's I think that's the good thing about what Pepe Larraz is doing. He's adding this kind of intellectual, dangerous intellectual side of Apocalypse. He's kind of still conniving there in the background about how he's going to turn this to his advantage. But yeah,
he looks so condescending. Apocalypse.
Oh, yeah.
I always like that about him. He's the most condescending looking character, bad guy of all times, in my opinion.
So you have something in common, then? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. That's why he's my favorite.
No, he's. I get that same vibe from Apocalypse. That he's he knows he's better, and he has no reason to prove it. He has nothing to prove to anybody else. He just walks into a room and everybody's like, okay, this guy is probably the strongest person here.
And that's why he has never won over the X-Men yet, because he don't want to. He doesn't matter. He knows.
Right.
Do it.
And honestly, according to his philosophy, from what I understand, just the fact that the X-Men beat him on any specific situation outside of him just throwing all of his power at them, he's like, you deserve to win because you beat me.
Yeah. Well, he is a follower of the strongest survive after all.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let's go over to Jerel's.
Okay. So I did it from he's just he's looking down on people. So
I love this. This is dope. This is
thank
super
you.
dope.
and it's scribbly.
Yeah, I mean it's no more scribbly than mine, and honestly, I prefer yours over mine right now. That face is menacing. Like mine looks like, hey, how's it going, everybody? Yours is like, sit,
bow before me.
bow before me. Right.
In my opinion, it looks like he's looking at a burger he's about to devour.
Yeah, that's essentially that's apocalypse to me.
That's menacing as well. Have you ever looked at a burger and said, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna eat you"? That's menacing.
And this is that burger, whatever burger he's going to devour, is the best burger ever because it has to be the strongest burger.
Yes.
The super burger.
Yeah, no impossible burgers for him. He's like,
right.
It's all Angus. Angus here. This still is mooing right now.
Yeah.
But I like I missed some elements. I totally forgot about this little line, these lines here at the top of his head.
I said stop, Joe.
I mean, yeah. I was just pointing out that I forgot those. That's all.
I think this is the good thing is that we both had like these. These are both. It's both apocalypse. I mean, he has his cerebral side. He has his menacing side. He has So I think that we captured different sides of him, and I like how I remember when I discovered Apocalypse back in X Factor and when I was in elementary school back in the 80s. And just his character design, I never would have thought of him being, I don't know if they planned on him being ancient Egyptian, but it's kind of neat. He kind of evolved his character so he has kind of like these kind of like Pharaoh sarcophagus style like attributes to his face.
Definitely.
And it was really neat how they played that up. And he is one of my favorite villains. So I'm glad that we got a chance to tackle it. And like I said, Joe, please take your time. You can refine this and then send us another copy, and we'll post that on our Instagram and Facebook page. But thank you.
Because this is literally just my second pass. And as I was saying, was it today? No, yesterday? No, today. I usually do like multiple passes on it because I actually have on my YouTube channel, I have a just kind of a walkthrough of a couple of my drawings. And you'll see me like draw something, move on to the next part, go back, erase that part, draw it again, move on to the next part, and then move on to a totally different part, come all the way back, erase that, draw it again, and then
that's the method to your creativity. You have to be a little
method to your madness.
Yes, I don't know about the method. It's definitely madness.
But Rick, did we have anybody else draw along with us? Does anybody know?
I have not received any messages.
There's so much fun we're having here. I figured that somebody else would drop in on it, but that's okay. I'll be content to watch the master Wills go to work there and show some stuff. So as we go into our third drawing, which is going to be the main protagonist from Veil of Night, which is Victoria. Before we do that, Rick, can you pull up that PDF and let's let our audience see what Victoria looks like?
Nope.
And
it's like no, I'm not doing it.
No. I don't wanna.
Don't wanna.
Here she is.
Okay. So yeah. I'm a part of the page one Discord, and I remember this is something that I shared with Joe before I even knew he was going to be our guest. And I was like, I put out on the Discord, I said, hey, does anybody have a character sheet for Victoria from Veil of Night? And everybody's like, no, we've only seen like some vague, promo art and stuff like that, but no character sheet. And it was like fate shined on Jerel. Said Joe is going to be our guest, and not only that, he's going to give us the character sheet. So everybody that's possibly watching on Discord, I'm sure this will pop up there on the page one Discord. But I love it. I love this one is obviously more fleshed out than the Judan one, but because you showed some action sequences and some action poses and some facial expressions. But do you want to before we get into the actual drawing part of it, do you want to give a little bit of an insight in terms of her look? Like,
So essentially, there was a couple different. Vic has kind of gone through a couple different iterations. This is the one that we've landed on for Veil of Night, and essentially she's been trained by Judan, the character we saw before. She's a little bit more fighter rather than maiden. The first version, she was a little bit more, for lack of a better word, like kind of prissy, kind of like always in dresses and stuff, and it didn't scream main character for me. I wanted somebody that had some more kick and punch to her, and so I gave her pants rather than wearing a skirt. I also gave her kind of more adventurous kind of gear, so she can kind of hold some of the things that she's going to be picking up throughout the storyline, and just it's more utilitarian. Is that it? Yeah, utilitarian.
She's not Sonya. She doesn't wear the steel bikini.
Right. Right. Yeah, she definitely wears full clothes.
I was about to ask who of your friends he was inspired from.
Well, she honestly, I don't know anyone that looks like Vic, and that hairstyle was kind of a last minute choice because I wanted her to have something cool, and that was kind of a contrast to the time period that she was in. Almost like she kind of stands out more than the average person walking down the street of the different towns that she would be in. So she kind of draws attention, which is the thing that she doesn't want to do. So occasionally she'll put her cloak up or her hood up to kind of hide it. But she has this silver hair, which kind of stands out because it's not necessarily the norm in the world that she lives in. And there are people out to trying to find her and try to get her, try to capture her. So as she moves from place to place, according to the story, based on plot, based on things I cannot discuss, right? She meets people and she learns new skills, and she kind of deals with other types of magical items that she has to hold on to that helps her find this other thing that she has to search and find. Right. So the thing with the thing with the thing, and then, but yeah, she's tough. She's a tough chick. She's definitely, the kind of person that does not wait to be saved. She rarely finds herself in a situation where she has to be saved. She's usually doing the saving. There is a character who is a possible, we don't know yet, love interest. His name is Aaron, and he is a very he's very chivalrous. He was very chivalrous.
Oh, that's not me then.
Yeah, but he's clumsy in a sense where
it's Jerel.
It's like he'll go to try to save someone and get captured in the process of trying to save that person. And he has this kind of view about the world that he needs to save people. He needs to run in there and be the hero, and he's just so bad at it. It's just really bad.
Jerel, that's Jerel.
And Vic ends up doing most of the saving in almost every case. So, and that's kind of how we meet that character between the interaction between Vic and Aaron when they first meet in a marketplace. Vic and her sister Andrea are actually in the marketplace, and I was going to say Jerel. Aaron is trying to save Andrea from a very large Gorgon who's shopping in the marketplace like everyone else. Whoa! And essentially, Andrea is kind of put in between a rock and a hard place, and Aaron jumps in and is immediately swatted. just taken down immediately to the point where it's almost comical. It's like we did not expect that because he looks capable. He definitely looks capable to do some damage, and he just does it. So
he's basically the gesture.
Yes,
the gesture of the comic.
Although there are no songs, which I mean, I should.
Compose some songs. Yeah, it could be like
have a kazoo.
I don't know. Like drop a coin.
Yeah, it's like the balladeer in The Witcher.
Yeah. I mean, so he's a cool character that I'll be designing next. That's the next character I'll be designing, and then I'll design Andrea after that. But you all will see that. I'll post that in the Discord once I get everything done.
Jerel. He should look like Jerel.
Right. His name is no longer Aaron. It's Jerel. And
it has more of a medieval name to it as well.
Jerel. Jeron. And then Jeron, like
so Judan and Jeron.
I had a thought when I saw her design here with her head actually. instead of just silver, those locks down there, I think it could be look really good if they were like purple or something, like purple color, pink or something like that, like
Possibly
different from the silver, like really make her even more stand out.
That's the problem. She wouldn't put color in her hair because it's like
Well,
she wants to be.
maybe it's part of the maybe it's part of the magic.
don't listen to her.
Maybe it's part of the magic. Maybe it's the part of the magic in her that goes that way. I'm actually coming up with good ideas here, guys.
So her hair just starts glowing and then it turns the color.
It worked for Ang.
When they do the manga anime version of Veil of Night, do that. And that's what I kind of looked at this hairstyle, and it actually kind of has a manga vibe to it. It has like a
exactly.
Yeah, if you take the flare out part of it out, it looks like Major Motoko Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that.
I like this because you don't expect to see this kind of hairstyle in a fantasy world.
And that's what I was going for. I wanted to make sure that she didn't look like the typical like fantasy medieval style character. We are on a different world, so the social norms when it comes to hairstyles, when it comes to lifestyles in general, when it comes to like the way certain names are attributed to certain races and certain accents are attributed to certain races. I want to mix it all up, and I mean it's my world, so I can do how I want. It's crazy. I've seen a lot of interviews where or a lot of stories where a writer will basically say, "Oh yeah, well, the women of this world are oppressed, and there aren't any black people, and blah blah blah, because that's how it was historically." And it's like, this is a fictional world. You can make it. The rules don't apply to this world. This is you. So now you've just revealed your own personal view of how you feel the world should look because you just created one. And
I think that it's just kind of like I guess that was a norm, a convention that was kind of followed, and why not grow it? Why not? And again, it's the creative perspective, and like you said. You also have that, that map that you were talking about that you haven't drawn yet. Who's to say there isn't another region,
exactly.
that explains why, as long as it makes sense, as long as you, right, as long as it's not like a contrived,
exactly.
there's a meaning behind why people look the way they look, and I love the way that you're talking about. Even though she's trying to like not stand out in the crowd, she inadvertently is standing out in the crowd.
She's doing a massively bad job at it.
She had purple bangs or purple like sideburns.
They had like a bioluminescent glow that constantly glows all the time.
So that being said, we got a little bit of this is another treat for our audience who followed Joe's. We got a little bit of a heads up in terms of a little bit more about Victoria. So I am super hyped about this. So super duper hyped. Let's go ahead and do our third and final challenge, where we're going to draw this OC from Veil of Night from Joe, Victoria. So
I mean, if we wanted Joe to finish, we'd have to give you guys an hour, but
for this,
you're
not wrong. You're not wrong.
So. You said it yourself, Joe. But let's say 30 minutes.
We'll start with that, and we'll go from there, because this is
the grand finale.
Well, he spilled. I mean, Joe kind of alluded to his. I'm going to use his word, his magnum opus, which is the Children of Ragnarok, and we're going to talk a little bit at the end about that, because right now we want to focus on where Veil of Night and how that's the current baby that's ready to be born.
Time is ticking, guys.
Yeah. Oh. See, I told you he was a good timekeeper. All right, let's start drawing. So
5 minutes left.
Okay. So what is the name Victoria? Is there like it has a very obviously old English, to it. Is there a reason why she's named Victoria? Is there?
Well, believe it or not, that was Jimmy Reyes came up with the premise for the story. Well, not the premise, but the kind of the idea of the story, which is the reason why he's kind of, if this was a movie, he would be like executive producer. and I would be the director / writer, whatever you want to call it. But he had the idea for the character being Victoria based off a script that was written a while back, and he came up with that, and he came up with the Mother Night character. And I'm not sure if he had a reason for it, but it just stuck, mainly because of the fact that that was one of the things he wanted to definitely keep as part of the story when we started doing rewrites for it. And so there's really, short answer, no, there's no real reason for.
I know that maybe there might be something like to it,
Right.
but sometimes we've had other creators that have been on here as our guests, and sometimes the short answer is it just sounds cool or it looks cool.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
That would be the short answer for it. It definitely just because it was already kind of established, and I wasn't given permission to change it. So, but it's cool. I like Victoria, and initially Victoria for me has always been like kind of like you just said, like kind of a old timey kind of name. But the fact that we're able to call her Vic, and I like that kind of nickname, it just kind of sticks, and it's easy to work into a story, especially for like terms of endearment and stuff like that. And, I can say, the main character or the her sister, they call her Vic rather than Victoria.
Yeah, it has more of that. It feels more like at home in terms of if you're especially if you're a reader, you feel like like you're a part of their family type thing when you go by the nickname versus like normal name. But I noticed in your character sketch, I didn't notice any weapons, and her father being Judan and being a sword master, was there? Is it because she can master any weapon, or is she a hand-to-hand combatant?
She eventually, let's see.
Or is that spoiler?
She uses
that spoiler territory.
It's not necessarily a spoiler, only because of the fact that the original cover before the redesign, she has a sword which she can kind of imbue magic into. She doesn't get that until probably much later in the story, only because I haven't written it into the story for her to have yet. But she is definitely very good at sword play. She's definitely very good at hand-to-hand, and because the progression of the story, she's not supposed to be doing the things that she's doing. She's kind of putting herself at risk by going out to do the thing that she does.
So I cannot say.
Right. So she's definitely not necessarily prepared for what she's about to embark on. But she eventually does get a sword, and she actually gets a sword that belongs to Judan. She actually kind of gets that sword that he has, which is a Blade Master sword. And I don't know if anybody watching have you ever heard of the Wheel of Time?
Yes, the novels, right?
Yeah. So
the whole series of novels.
So Robert Jordan and Brandon Anderson, kind of the last few books of the Wheel of Time, they really kind of go further into like the lore of these like sword masters, and I love the idea of having a way to identify like a sword master or whatever the case is, and they have something called a heron mark blade, where if a warrior has this blade, this special type of blade with this heron mark on it, then not to mess with them. Like it's just like don't come up against them, because you will lose definitely. And that's kind of there's a similar vein to that in the Veil of Night, where if you have one of these very specific blades, which I sent you images of, and I think we have in the initial thing that we kind of looked at with all of the images, those blades have very big significance in this world, because if you have one, the hilt is always the same no matter what type of blade that you actually have, but the blade shape is significant to your fighting style, and there's a very specific blade style that is like kind of like a secret art, I guess you can say. And when you see that blade shape it's like you definitely don't want to go up against this person, and that's the blade that she ends up getting. And believe it or not, that she's able to do some other things based on her other abilities that she has that I won't go into with that particular blade. So she's able to kind of imbue magic into the blade and make it do cool, crazy stuff, which again, we haven't actually. I wanted to kind of go into what she's able to do, but there's some things that I haven't really fleshed out in the story yet that I wanted to kind of get a handle on before I say it, because I don't want it to be like, oh, that's stupid, I want to do that.
So
like, you don't have to apologize for anything. You're the creator. It's not stupid unless you think it's stupid. I think that what you told is intriguing. I want to learn more about it. So
yeah, for sure. I'm down with it. I'm just curious. I am an old school Warcraft fan. Not so much the World of Warcraft game, but Warcraft, the whole Warcraft lore in general. And your Yudan reminds me a lot of the Blade Masters from that lore as well. Is that a coincidence, or is that?
It's definitely not a coincidence. I love World of Warcraft. Love Warcraft in general. I've been a fan of the games, just like the strategy games, and then also from the MMO. Just from years. I haven't played in a number of years, but the knowledge is still there when it comes to like the storyline and the big sword that that I want to say Uther. No, his son, whoever becomes
Arthas.
the Arthas, yeah, that becomes the Lich King or whatever the case is. Like he becomes evil because of his sword or whatever the case is. That sword style to me was just so cool. So I was like,
tell. With your design.
So I love that. So yeah, that's definitely been an influence, and also just the style of the art that's in World of Warcraft. I've definitely been influenced by that. So yeah, it's not a coincidence at all.
Yes, I was not wrong. Yes.
Which, like I said, that's one of the main things that kind of drew me to the story initially. When Jimmy found me on one of his streams, basically I was just showing my art, and he was like, "Dude, you'd be perfect." He saw something that I was actually drawing for Children of Ragnarok, and he saw something that I drew for that. It was like this big battle scene that I was doing. He's like, "Dude, you'd be perfect for Veil of Night, because it's a fantasy story." And ever since I saw that guy that you drew, I want you to be part of this group. And that was before page one was page one, because we hadn't had a name. It was just Jimmy grabbing random artists from online from under stream and just kind of indoctrinating them into his cult.
Jimmy Reyes.
Cult of Reyes.
Right, the cult.
Reyes of White Cult.
Yeah, because he's dude. Jimmy is awesome at. He definitely knows how to talk. He's got the gift of gab. Let's just say that he's got the gift of gab, and if he sees you falter, like he knows how to pick you right back up. It's like, no, man, we could do this. He's very encouraging. He definitely wants us to succeed as a group, but he has a heart for the individual as well. So he definitely
that's awesome.
He does a lot of very good brainwashing.
I was going to say inspirational, but
yeah.
That's
Tomato, right?
Right.
One person's brainwashed, great, I guess.
No, I love the guy. He's fun. He's like I said, he's got the gift of gab. When we're on a stream, I think you had said it before, Jerel, as well. It's like, hey, if I'm talking too much, you could jump in. Just tell me, hey, take a breath. In Jimmy's case, there's never really a spot to take a breath. He definitely knows that too. So he'll tell you, he's like, look, I'm not here by myself. I want all of you all to interact. If I'm talking too much, say so, because I don't want to be the only person, talking. And I want everybody to have their own voice, to have their say. And he's really cool. He's like, I love him to death. He's definitely got some some grand visions and grand plans for Page One and for Veil of Night and for Dragon Rage, which is the project that he's working on with Dave Philpott. And he's very proud of his friends. He talks all of us up. Sometimes I won't even be on the stream, and like I'll be at work because I have my day job, my 9 to 5, and I'll just have it up, occasionally just in the background. I'll just be listening to it, and I'll hear my name. It's like, yeah, we got Joe Wills, we got Dave Finch, we got Dave Philpott. I mean, we got a good team, and I'm like, oh, he's saying my name again. Awesome. It's like, that's cool.
Yay!
And your Page One in general is that you can see the genuine excitement that he was talking about. I think in the ART show yesterday about what makes Page One different from other comics or studios or things like that is that and aside from what he said, it was you could just tell the passion and the excitement that he had in it, and he really wants to bring that to that same excitement and enthusiasm into the books. That's he wants to give back to the fans so that they know what they're receiving is the top shelf stuff, and that's what I see. I mean, it's obviously the team is so phenomenal that you're as independent creatives, you're putting out stuff that's on par, if not better than a lot of the other companies that shall not be named that are out there. How many more minutes?
I appreciate it.
20.
20?
Okay.
Oh, wow. I need to do more then. See, that's the problem. So now at first it was like, I'm not doing enough. I'm doing too much and I'm running out of time. Now I'm like, I'm almost done.
You are. Oh my God. You're like laying down here. You're going to see me speed up now that you said that you're almost done. So now, Joe.
It gives me time to like actually draw for real.
I mean, Joe, it's fine, Joe. We can just say 10 minutes then.
Let's see.
All right, so I need to give her a weapon. So should I give her one of the blades that you kind of said?
Butter knife.
A butter knife. she's going to be the one who's going to be taken out.
Let's see. If we go by the old version of the design, you can give her. You can give her a sword. A sword that has like some flames on it or something like that on the blade. Maybe some runes on there.
Let's do that then. I'm afraid to look up and see what you've done because I know that it's gonna rock, and I gotta do something that looks like can hold a candle to what.
I'm playing it super safe, so you have nothing to worry about. I was trying to like not do too much so I can actually have a finished drawing by the time I was done, and I learned my lesson from the first two. I'm like, I was doing way too much on those other ones, so I need to just kind of dumb it down a bit. So don't feel bad because this one is.
Don't feel pressured to get it finished because you'll have time to take it to that whatever level that you want to give us because I think that we just want to our audience wants to see just the process and see how what comes to mind when you're creating stuff.
The process is always what I like watching most, to be honest. I enjoy watching finished works, but every time I do, I always have that feeling that I wish I saw just the sketch versions of this and how it progressed.
Oh yeah, that's actually I like when I go to cons and stuff like that. When I used to not table because more than ever is more about it's like all right, I need to get this commission, I need to get these commissions. But back when I was able to just kind of walk around and just enjoy the con, I would just go around and stand just next to someone who's drawing something for someone else and just like watch them draw.
Like really, really intimidating close.
yeah. I would just breathe really, really loud in their neck, in their ear.
This looks good.
Yeah.
And Rick is not. I mean, he doesn't do that. He just is just saying, right? You're just saying that.
Yeah. I'm just, of course.
But yeah, I enjoy. I think DC put out a bunch of they called it the unwrapped editions of
Oh
some
yeah,
of,
yeah,
I think they did one for Jim Lee's Hush. They did it
yeah.
for
I have
several.
that one.
They did it for Flashpoint. They did it for some other Batman books, and I just love seeing the raw pencils. I mean, I love Scott Williams inking, but sometimes I just want to appreciate the pencils to see what the original vision was. And they work so closely for so many years that Scott Williams can probably read Jim Lee's mind. But
Seriously.
it's so nice to see the pencils, to see the genesis of a lot of things, and yeah, it's amazing what Jim Lee does. And there's something to be said that's seen in rough pencils.
Yeah, I love seeing the process, and definitely seeing Jim. I say Jim like I know him. It's like, yeah, Jim.
My homeboy Jim.
Right. I love seeing his process, and the fact that so much is left to Scott to do.
Oh, there's a lot to be like. There's a lot to be open to interpretation too, and that's why I said I think that Scott can read Jim Lee's minds because he can kind of pick where things need to be. But you see that there's a lot of detail, obviously, that does not get inked, and it's so neat to see those original ideas
Right.
that were in there that are kind of like now refined with ink. But I totally appreciate seeing raw pencils.
Yeah, and I actually, and what's funny is, I don't draw. I do a lot of analog drawing a lot. As a matter of fact, what I'll do is, even for the Ink and Drink story that I'm actually going to be doing, I do the digital pencils or digital roughs. Like this right now would just be a digital rough. And I would take it to about maybe right here, and then I'll drop it down to blue line, and then I'll print this out 11 by 17, and then do pencils on it with traditional pencils, and then I'll scan it back in, and then drop that to blue line, and then print that back out and do manual inks. Or if I'm doing digital, I would go ahead and take it into Manga Studio to do the inks, which I've been using a lot lately. So
Manga Studio is your weapon of choice when it comes to doing digital artwork? Because I know there's a lot of people clip Studio Paint. Some people just use Photoshop.
Yeah. Clip Studio Paint is actually the name of it. It changed from Manga Studio to Clip Studio Paint, and that was my fault. That's old school. It used to be called Manga Studio.
I was about to say you're old school, man. If you still gonna call it a Manga Studios, you go way back from that.
I'll show you, I didn't even catch that because I Photoshop. I because graphic design, I use Photoshop all the time, and I haven't really. And I'm using Procreate to do a lot of things. I'm still learning it, and then of course they had that sale for Manga Studio, Clip Studio Paint. Just recently, and I bought it. I just haven't got a chance to really mess around with it. But yeah, so that's basically your go-to software that you do for.
Yeah, I work primarily in Photoshop, but then for my finishes, usually I'll just go into Clip Studio Paint and do all the inks. Mainly
it's
because
so
it has like
easier.
Yeah, it's so it's just really intuitive. A lot of the artwork, like right now, this is like super sketchy, but if I do what I normally do, which this is the first pass, and then I just kind of lower the opacity, I lower the opacity down. And
they say St. Louis, that's how they say opacity.
Right, that's everybody in St. Louis says it that way. Opacity. So I would lower this down, and then I would just go back over the lines that I want. Just how you would normally do if you were drawing it traditionally, like Dave Finch. What he does is he'll
5 minutes, by the way, guys.
Okay. Dave Finch will he'll draw it all out and then erase it all to where it's like super thin, super light, and then he'll just go in if he knows the characters. Like he just did Spider-Man and Venom a few days ago, maybe more of a week ago, and he didn't even do like pencil lines. He just went straight into the inks, straight from what he had, which was really cool because it like kind of shows how much he really he has a good grasp of the character already, and he's like, I'm good on this.
I hate people that can do that. And I hate them out of jealousy because they're so good. I don't hate them because they're bad people. I hate them because out of jealousy because I want to do that as well.
Rick is saying that that's a good thing because I hate them out of, this.
Yeah.
Right.
I hate them out of respect. I know it's that's a weird line, but I'm sure you can follow what I mean.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I look at those drawings and I'm like, doggone it. It's like, how do you even? Why do you even? It's like even
Just
right
stop. Just stop, please.
now. Right.
But that's why they're the pros, and that's something that we aspire to, and it gives us a goal, and we look up to them because they can do that.
Yeah.
Well, Rick is like green with envy. He's secretly hating on them and trying to.
Yeah, I know. I look at those artists, and especially, like I said, the ones that we were talking about before, Pepe Larraz and RB Silva, and people that follow me, they hear these names so often. They're like, really, dude? Like, can you just get another group of people that you like? Because
come up with something new, please.
Right. You keep saying these people's names. I'm surprised their ears aren't itching and they're like sneezing and stuff like that. What was it, the anime trope where somebody's talking about you, just start sneezing?
The trope is like when you're so like, well, usually it's when you see like a hot anime chick. I guess it's like the character bleeds, their nose bleeds.
Right. That's how I am.
Bleeding.
Yeah, my nose just starts bleeding profusely every time I look at Pepe Larraz's art. I'm like, but yeah, it's funny because I say those names all the time, and then even when I'm doing stuff like this, what I would normally do is just to keep my inspiration up, so I want to keep drawing, because sometimes you get tired and you're like, I'll finish this later. What I'll do is I'll have my Pinterest up, and I'll just have I have a Pinterest board called just comic book artists, and it just all of it is just basically them: Coipel, Larraz, Silva, Eminem, Jimenez, all of them. They're just all on there.
Did you say Eminem?
Eminem.
Oh, Stuart Eminem. Yeah, okay.
Eminem. Yes, definitely Eminem. Eminem is on there. The rap god.
He's my favorite artist.
That's what I said. It's like that list of artists. Those are all my go-to inspirations. When you feel like you can't, well, if you're like Rick, you get depressed if you look at it, I guess. But to me, it's like when I look at their artwork, it's like, gosh, so awesome, and then it invigorates you to get back into the drawing again. Kind of.
Oh no, I don't get depressed about looking at them. It's more like, okay, I'm gonna be that good someday. But screw you for making it this hard on me to get that far.
Right.
It's a love-hate thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna call mine done for
done.
now.
Oh my God.
There's just 3 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so
but if you're done, Joe, then we'll call it done in like 5 seconds.
Don't be done. I need a little bit more time.
Okay, I'll give you 30 seconds then.
No, you're fine. However much time we have left, I can definitely scribble on this for a little bit more, because it's super, super rough. And when it comes to digital, in Photoshop, because of the brushes that I use, I usually keep it super, super rough like this, and then I print it out and then do all my pencils and everything. So this for digital, this is about as clean as I'll probably have it. And I kind of mess with the anatomy a bit in the pencils, and then when I do my inking, I'd even do a little bit more fixing and futzing with it and all that stuff. So
stop looking at things, Jerel. You only have a few seconds left. He's not even working anymore. He decided to look at your work.
I'm not
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on all your cameras here.
Rick could be that kid that when you're in grade school that tells on. He's the hall monitor. He's like, Jerel's looking. He's not paying attention.
I'm the all-seeing Rick.
all-seeing.
That's awesome. Let's see. Yeah, I think this isn't too much of a spoiler. I think we should be good. This is good.
Oh my God! He uses magic. Spoiler.
Right. It's like the witch the witch main character of a fantasy story about magic uses magic.
Wow.
News headlines.
It's like, oh no, we know the secret.
Right. What's funny is I'm not sure through the course of this conversation if I've revealed too much because I won't know until like I talk to Jimmy if he watches it and then says, "Dude, we weren't supposed to say X, Y, Z."
If
I'll be like, "Oh."
Jimmy comes on in your DMs and like, no.
Right. It's like I didn't even realize I said that. I'm sorry.
To be honest, I don't think you have. I don't think you have said anything that's been like, wow, okay, that's the juicy details.
And really, honestly, it's more like, have I revealed anything that might not actually stick when it comes to this script? Because the script is really early right now.
Yeah,
some of the stuff that I've told you, I haven't even honestly written down to be added in. I have all these notes, and you know how writers do. They have like a Post-it note over here, a scrap, a piece of paper over here, a napkin over here, and all of these have like these little random notes like, oh, good scene. Remember to make sure so and so meets up with so and so and does that thing.
I forgot what the thing was. Yeah.
Right. Then you read it like, what was this about?
That's where you call up Rick and go, Rick, what did I mean by this? Because you're the all-knowing one. Tell me what
all-knowing Rick.
I know there was something about a butter knife that I needed to put in here.
I almost forgot about that. Just that quick. Okay, yeah, butter knife. I gotta write that down. Butter knife.
Jerel or Jerron or something like that. That's supposed to be on there. So.
Right.
Yeah. It's sort of like you gotta like decipher your own chicken scratch. It's like what did I mean by this?
What did I mean by this?
Well, that's why you're a part of the Illustrata Illuminati. You have to have like this puzzle that you have to like decipher. Like you have like a wooden puzzle that you have to like. 5 seconds. Oh. All right, I guess that's it. I'm gonna put pencils down. Kazoo. There's. All right, let's see what Joe the master did. I want to see it. Oh, look at that.
Showing it.
Oh, I haven't looked up magic. Yeah, I was doing a flaming sword. I should have done magic too.
Don't mind my smiley face over there. That's just me looking down.
I was going to say, is that like a new character reveal? The smiley face?
No, it's just the floating smiley face of Joe peeking into the world of Dathalia.
This looks phenomenal. I love it. And even like your little fire effects that you did, excellent.
Thank you.
I like it a lot. It looks really good. I like the sketchiness of it. For some reason, I always been drawn to like the sketchiness, sketchy art.
And I'm the same way. That's what I was saying before. When I go to conventions and stuff like that, I will watch them do the sketchy portion, and I always lose it. Like
when they erase it,
interest. Yeah, when they erase it, I lose interest. I'm like, and then they, put the ink lines on there. And what's funny is in the group that I'm in, Anthony Fowler Jr. He's done some inks for Firefly, for Boom Studios, and so I think for Dynamite also, for Dresden. He's more about the inks. So when we both look at an image, I'm like, that's cool. He's like, yeah. And then when he's like, that's cool, I'm like, yeah. So it's like.
Well, you know what, Joe? I'm on the same boat as you. I love seeing the rough stuff. I love seeing the pencils. Oh, I don't want to mind.
Speaking of the rough stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't get any rougher than this.
She looks like she is fierce and in middle of a battle, fighting some hex knights, which we haven't talked about yet.
Someone took a donut.
I didn't. Yeah, someone took a donut. Did you take the last donut?
He's after that same burger that Apocalypse is getting. So, yeah, this is. I had so much fun doing this. I think that you told us a little bit about her backstory and her weapon, and I guess I could change that hand with a sword and change it into like a spell hand. I think that would look kind of cool. It would look like Ryu from Street Fighter. She has like a fire. Getting ready to
either one works because again I haven't written the script to the point where she's in a fight just yet using any magic. So the sword is relevant, the flame hand is relevant. Either one works. So yeah, you can keep it as is or you can change it. It's up to you.
I think that's maybe she's a dual wielder. She can like throw fireballs with one hand and have the sword with the fire on it on another. But I tell you, I had so much fun. Your character sheet was it had so much to it that I could say, oh, I could draw from that. And plus, hearing you talk about her, it was easy to come up with like a kind of a fun pose to put her in. But I'd like to see where Veil and Night is going. And did anybody submit anything for like any drawings, or did we hear anything?
No, sadly no.
Man, they totally missed out. So, but I just that's okay because that means we can just focus on Joe's stuff and. And while we showed this art for Veil of Night, that Veil of Night is give us a little bit of a heads up in terms of the production for that. I know it's going to be Indiegogo, but is it going to be like in September, October, November, December?
So we're shooting before the end of the year. Definitely, we want to get out there as fast as possible. Dragon Rage right now is what Page One Comics is kind of focusing on, and they're very graceful. They're giving me time to finish the script and start getting the drawings and pages done. What we'll do is we're going to come out with a 5-page preview, kind of like what we did with Dragon Rage, where we have 5 pages with some supplemental material in there, maybe some backbook stuff, some sketches and things like that, just to kind of fill out the book. I think it's going to end up being close to 12 pages at the most, maybe a little bit less than that based on our editors, Jimmy and Dave. They kind of look through it and just make sure that it's not too much, but then not like too little to where it's not worth people even looking at it. We'll give away some free ones online on the stream. We'll definitely come back on the show if we can, if you have us on, and promote that. Definitely, and we'll give you all some free ones to kind of hand out to viewers, and also to have, of course, for yourself. And we got all kinds of things. Jimmy is all about coming up with supplemental merch and stuff like that. So like bookmarks and pins and buttons and trading cards and all kinds of stuff. He went through a lot of stuff for Dragon Rage, and I'm sure we're gonna have the same thing for Veil of Night. But essentially, yeah, it's gonna be an Indiegogo, and we're shooting for before the end of the year. And having the full book done by the beginning of 2021. As long as the script is solid and they give me the thumbs up saying we're good, and we've already designed the characters, some of them at least, and we just want to make it good and make the world as robust as possible. So when that issue 2 comes out, because we already know first Indiegogo is going to be successful. It's going to be overfunded by 150% and all this, and we're going to reinvest the money back into the company so we can make sure that Page One is doing its thing and able to come out with more titles and more books. But issue 2 is going to just hit the ground running hard, and before we even get done with issue 1, issue 2 is going to be even better. I already know. So
that's just what you just described, and what I like about what Page One is doing is that, unlike this is one of my biggest peeves about Kickstarters or crowdfunding campaigns in Indiegogo, is that sometimes independent creators, they get so caught up in the hype that the book isn't ready really. And what I like about what Page One's formula is that the Indiegogo is not going to go live unless the book is done, because then after that, it's just a matter of like doing the extra merch, the extra tag, the extra tiers for rewards, and getting those alternate covers, because the core is there already. And I've had crowdfunders that I still haven't seen this stuff, and that's the difference. And I think that's how you win. That's how you win people over to your corner that are going to support your book and be lifetime fans. And I like Jimmy's whole mantra about expanding the demographic and not beyond the core male 18 to 22 audience, and making it so there's a book for everybody, or even the book there, it appeals widely. And that's a great mandate, I think, that he's trying to put into all Page One books and all of your stuff, that it can bridge that gap.
He's definitely got a vision. He's definitely got a vision for page one, and we're all on board with it. We've all drank the Kool-Aid. So we're excited. We're just as excited about it as he is. Even though he does love to make sure that we're just as gassed up at every meeting. He's definitely a good leader. He definitely he jumps in and he makes sure that we're just as motivated. Because without the passion for what you're doing, then it's going to be a horrible product. And he definitely picked a good team. Not to toot my own horn, but he picked
toot away.
Was a good addition.
Right. He picked the team that he knew was going to be passionate about the characters, passionate about the story, and I love Vic. I love her as a character. I love where the story's going to go. I love the world of Veil of Night and all of the elements that are being put into it, and not just because I created it, but because I think that it's a story that needs to be told. I think that it's definitely got some elements that people will definitely relate to. It's got some character moments that I think that people will definitely have. They'll be thought-provoking as well as kind of tug at your heartstrings a little bit. There's thing about family, and there's themes about the loss of loved ones, and there's definitely a lot of themes going on, not to get too muddled in all of that, but essentially there's an element of the story for everyone. There's action, there's comedy, there's adventure, there's magic, there's death and destruction if you like that. There's definitely a little bit of, I'm going to add a little hint of gore if I can, to have that in there. Some surprise moments,
butter knives.
Yeah, there's going to be at least one butter knife, at the very least one. People that you care about will go through some things, and hopefully you'll be along for the ride and enjoy that. And by the end of it, you'll want issue 2. And I was just talking to Dave Philpott, who's the writer for Dragon Rage, because I wanted to get some clarification, and this is kind of give you some behind the scenes. As I'm writing the script, I was basically trying to determine whether or not I was going to try to do a one-shot, 22-page story with Vic and her cast of characters, or if we're going to try to do like a story arc that kind of spans over a couple books, because it's never guaranteed when you have like a crowdfunded book if you'll get a chance to do book 2 or book 3 of a book. It's just like any movie that you will go to. You want to have a coherent story in that first book so people can feel satisfied at the end, but you also want to leave it open so you can have a story that spans across a couple books, because you don't want the main villain of the entire book, of the entire story, to be defeated by the end of book 1, and then you're like, well, what's going to happen in book 2? Do we have to do like Dragon Ball Z? Haha, I'm even stronger than the one before, and every fight, it gets bigger and bigger. And I mean, there's an escalation and kind of an inflation of power that I really don't want to get into, because the bad guy in this story, Mother Night, is very powerful. She's very powerful. And for something bigger and badder to come, which will come, definitely in book 2. Spoiler. And not saying that everything will be resolved by the end of book 1, but if something bigger and badder does come, then I want to make sure that every character in the story is powerful enough to handle that, or at least knows a lot about what they can do or what they can't do, so they know if they're screwed or not, that kind of thing. So that was like the conversation that me and Dave had, because I wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure if I wanted to shorten the story and put it all in one book and then say, let's hope for that second book, or if we say, you know what, we already know this is going to be a hit, we're going to make this into a 3-book story arc. This is act 1, and we'll leave it open, and we won't, we'll give you some, resolution and some cliffhanger and some of that, and then make you wait for that book 2 to come out. So I hadn't decided yet, and I'm still writing the script, so it may go either way. So you'll find out definitely once you read the book, and once you get to that book, the end of book 1, you'll know whether or not that you can, it's like, I need to see book 2, or if it's like, oh man, that was good, I can't wait for book 2, that kind of thing. So it's going to be one of those two.
I think I'm gonna make a safe prediction that I think it's gonna go beyond book one. So we're gonna definitely do that. And you are when it is time to launch that, you're welcome here, and we want to any of the I encourage all of our viewers to check out that social media stuff at the bottom, so you can kind of see where it's going. And if he follows the Dragon Rage model, we're going to be getting more insight into the world of Veil of Night, and I encourage everybody to check it out. But not to take away from Veil of Night, but as we're getting towards the end of the show, I wanted to give you a little bit of time to address two things.
Yes.
The first thing is what we hinted about and what you talked a little bit about, which was your magnum opus, which is of Ragnarok. And we'll go ahead and just give us a little bit of a teaser about that. And what I would imagine this is probably not going to be something that until Veil of Night is
right.
One is out the door before you actually start exploring this world. But I wanted you to talk about that because that's actually more of your thing.
Yeah, not Veil of Night. Children of Ragnarok is my baby. It's my pet project that I've been working on for a few years. It started off as a prose book, and then some friends was like, "Dude, you should make this into a graphic novel. It'd be awesome as a graphic novel." So I'm like, "All right, let's do that." And then essentially, it's the story of Fenris Wolf. In the world of Children of Ragnarok, he goes by Gray. It takes place in modern day, but essentially what happens is he's a servant of Loki up until a certain point where Loki feels that he's worked off his indebtedness to Loki for freeing him from millennia ago from the sword and being bound by the Asgardians. So, of course, he's got a chip on his shoulder, but as soon as Loki sets him free, because Loki was basically hiding him from the Asgardians because they did try to look for him. They couldn't find him because of Loki's magic. As soon as Loki sets him free, all hell breaks loose. Essentially, everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong, and he is hunted and wrongfully accused for the murder of a very prominent Asgardian deity. And also
you better do this right, man.
Yeah. And he is also because of the fact that he's Fenris Wolf, he's also a harbinger of chaos / of Ragnarok. So he's, according to a prophecy, he will bring about Ragnarok, or at least help bring about Ragnarok. And he's just a guy trying to live his life. He hasn't done anything to anyone. He hasn't hurt anyone aside from a few mob bosses he's stole a lot of ancient artifacts from, who also become people that are aware of his appearances. So they everybody's after him. So it's basically every gun, every knife, every sword, every arrow, every butter knife is aimed at Gray and his companion in this story. And basically that's where the story picks up, is when he is basically trying to prove his innocence and trying to prove that he deserves to live without people chasing him down and trying to kill him. So
and I think what you said about that is that it goes across the mythology history up to present day. Like it talks about like ancient Asgardian mythology, and he's been basically a pawn or a slave of Loki, but it goes up to modern day.
Exactly.
But did you say that Fenrir was a slave?
Well, it's Fenrir
Wolf, according to Northern mythology, mythology nerd here, is actually the son of Loki.
Right. So essentially what happens is once he gets captured by the Asgardian and wrapped around with the ribbon that actually captures him millennia ago, and the sword placed in his mouth, after that, not too long after that, maybe 100 years or so of captivity, Loki comes a-calling and gives him a proposition. Basically says, if I free you, then you will owe me. And Fenrir's been who he is and wanting revenge against the Asgardians and really just wanting to live his life, as a person, basically accepts that offer, and Loki uses his magic to both free him and hide him from the Asgardians so they won't come looking for him. And he does that by basically taking all of the Fenris Wolf magical essence and condensing it down to a man. So he becomes a human man essentially, but he has some side effects from that, and he's a black man, and that's kind of the twist to the story is there's this Asgardian kind of I don't even know what you want to call it, like a mythological creature that is been condensed down to live in the body of a black man, and throughout history he's been this black man who has been just there, just in the fringes of historical things that have happened based on Loki's direction. So in modern day Chicago, or a fictional city, which I haven't decided yet whether it's going to be a fictional city or Chicago. I really want it to be Chicago, but in Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, it's like a fictional version of Chicago. It's based on Chicago, kind of like Metropolis is based on New York, and Gotham City is like based on Chicago, I think, or New York at night, basically. But essentially, it's kind of like that, where there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes outside of regular human eyes, and there's a lot of mythological creatures that exist in real life that no one actually knew existed, and obviously Norse deities that basically just wreak havoc upon Fenris' life after this situation happened. So yeah, it's going to be a fun ride. I like the idea that that he has no real allies. So he's just like out there and everybody's trying to kill him, and he has to kind of weave through that and trying to find his way to basically just surviving. So yeah,
I like the mix of your own fantasy and then the actual mythology in it.
Thank you.
I think that makes it more interesting than going complete mythology, but still keeping it close enough that people can say, "Hey, I remember that."
Yeah. And I've read a lot of the prose Edda and a lot of Norse and Norwegian mythology. I didn't find any information saying what Fenrir did to get captured, other than the prophecy. Like, he didn't actually do anything. So that I've always had like a kind of a thing.
I think that's the only reason.
Yeah.
That he's the bringer of Ragnarok, and that was enough to have him chained up.
Exactly. So just imagine like Minority Report, like a situation where like you haven't even done the crime yet, but yet you're already imprisoned. It's like, but I didn't do anything, you know. And in the stories that I've read and the lore that I've read about him, he was sentient enough to understand what was going on, because they had conversations with him when they were trying to trick him into putting these chains on to see how to test his strength when they were trying to, imprison him. And the whole thing was, he was very arrogant. And he was like, I'm stronger than anything that you could bring about. But then he was also initially very trusting, which adversely, in my story, because of those situations, he's become very guarded, very untrusting of anybody for that matter. He doesn't trust anyone because he was basically betrayed by the people he thought were his caretakers and everything. So being raised by Tyr is one of the main characters in the story. He's like a father figure to Gray, but they are estranged. They have he's basically cut him off. He's like, I don't want anything to do with you. You're part of the group that basically just betrayed me altogether. And Tyr felt bad about that. And from one of the stories that I read in regards to the capturing of Fenris, was the fact that Tyr was the one that put his hand in his mouth, and he volunteered to do that. And when he lost his hand, because they went back on his word, he didn't even cry out. Like, he didn't say anything. He just wrapped his hand up and walked away. And in my mind, I was like, he felt like he was atoning for the betrayal, that because he raised Fenris like his own son. Like, he raised him, and he was so close to this character that he knew that what he was doing was wrong, and he regretted that for millennia after that. So ever since then, he's been trying to atone. So that's kind of his story arc. And so everybody's got their own little things. Odin is still an a-hole.
Odin has to be an a-hole. Else it's not Odin.
Right. You know, his character model has not changed throughout any storyline that you've ever read about Odin. He is as hardcore as you can think of. He has no remorse. He's like, everything that I did was justified, and even if it wasn't, I'm Odin. I'm the All-Father. I do what I want.
Yeah.
so
I think our audience got a chance to not only get a glimpse into Children of Ragnarok, but they got a good lesson in Norse and mythology here. And I'm going to give you a little Joe. Rick told me when we did our little bit of our before we got on the show, I was talking to Rick about your magnum opus, and he goes, and Rick said, "It better be good because I'm an expert on."
Oh yeah, I love mythology of all kinds, and just recently, I would say within the last 5 years, 6 years or so, I've just been really enamored with Norse mythology.
I was basically raised on it, on Norse mythology. Like, so if you ever need help or got questions, feel free to come to me, man.
I'm definitely going to take you up on that, because once I really get started on this, even though it's based in modern day, I want to have all of those kind of Easter eggs for those people who know about Norse mythology. I'll put characters in, and even the layman may not know who they are, but people that know anything, they're like, "Oh, that's so-and-so. I can't believe he added that in there." I love those kind of
I like that idea, and I also like that you didn't just go with the Marvel Northern mythology, because I would have gotten mad then. I would have gotten
Yeah. Thor is definitely an a-hole in this as well, and he's not very smart either. So, but he doesn't have. Well, never mind. That's a spoiler. So, So
we'll talk later.
There's some aspects of the story that I can't reveal, but essentially, a lot of the prose edda is how I wanted the characters to kind of be fleshed out. So I want to be as true to that, but give my own modern spin on it without, I don't want people to see my Loki and automatically see Tom Hiddleston. Like I don't want that to be the case. I do have some images of Loki that I've looked up online, and every version has been very similar. It's like throughout all of art, essentially, Loki has kind of had this very, very, very distinct look. So I didn't stray too far from that, but I didn't want people to look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, Tom Hiddleston." He's he's definitely more menacing. He's more cruel, more conniving, and also very, very manipulative. Like, he's super manipulative and such a smooth talker.
He is the trickster god, after all.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And if I were to pick somebody to play him in the movie, because I kind of had a little fan cast of my own thing, I would actually go with, oh my goodness, just plays Magneto and the new
Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender, yeah. That's, in my head, that's who Loki is. And just seeing him in a sleek suit, I'm like, that's my Loki right there. That's cool. Yeah,
I always seen Loki as a really slim kind of character, and I always found Fassbender to be too buff to play Loki.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
and
I mean that's why I like Hiddleston so much, even though he's become it's become too much. When he first got announced as Loki, I was like, oh, okay, I can see that. Yeah. That works. Now it's gotten to a point where it's like, oh, God's sake. But at first it was like, yeah, I can see him work.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great insight into like this future project, and I wanted our audience to get a good glimpse about this particular OCIP that's going to be coming out, and I could see like all sorts of merchandise for this. I could see like toys and hoodies and stuff like that. It'd be so cool to see both of these projects. I mean, Veil of Night is going to be crowdfunded later on this year, and I could say in 2021 we're going to see a lot of movement on Children of Ragnarok, and here we'd like to have you back here to talk to us a little bit about when those those things are launching. Now, I hate to like bring you back in here, but one last thing, when we were talking last night, you were talking about your philosophy on, and this is basically to anybody in our audience who's an aspiring artist who wants to supposedly come up with a style, or just and you had this great insight in terms of your own philosophy in terms of like, how does one find one's art style? And I think that if you could, I think that would be a great way to like to just frame your appearance here. Could you share with us about that?
Yeah. So basically all I was saying was the fact that a lot of new artists, and even some people that have been drawing for a while, they focus so much on trying to find a style, as if what they are currently doing isn't a style. So it really is all about drawing what you see. So however you see a specific thing is going to be different from how I see it, even if it's the same object. If we're looking at, a bowl of fruit, how I draw that bowl of fruit and how you draw that bowl of fruit is going to be different because we see it differently. What we choose to emphasis, how we choose to add lines or take away lines, how we choose to show value and shape and color and just shadow and things like that. That's your style. However you see it is your style. So when people say, how do I develop a style? The real answer to that is draw what you see. Once you see it and draw it down, whatever is on that paper, that's your style. Now, how do you refine your style? That just comes with the cliche, the Beatitudes about practice and, perfect practice makes perfect, all this other stuff, and it's very cliche because it's honestly true. The more you draw, the more your style is refined. If you look at some of my old work from 2004, and then you look at my stuff from 2000, from this year, it's drastically different. And before, that was a style. That was still a style. Even though it wasn't as refined as it is now, it was still my style because that's how I saw the images that I drew. So as you go along, you're going to develop and refine the style that you have. You always have a style. From the time you pick up a pencil and put it down on paper, that's your style. You have a style. So you don't have to worry about trying to get one because you have one. And refining it is all about drawing what you see and just learning all those things that every artist talks about: anatomy, perspective, camera angles, telling, storytelling, how to, the difference between light and dark. Was it chiaroscuro, I can never say it right. Anyway, the chiaroscuro. Yeah, I think it's chiaroscuro. It's basically what Mignola does, essentially, with just like the light and the dark, like the stark contrast, learning about those things, learning about just how to build a character, how to design a character, all those things, whatever you decide to go into, whether it be environments, whether it be comics, whether it be storyboards for a TV show or a cartoon or a movie, your style is going to develop just from doing the things that you already do, which is drawing what you see.
Yeah, and that's what I found refreshing, because I think a lot of artists are so caught up in like emulating another artist, or if they emulate, they're like going, when am I gonna like develop my own style? And I think that it was refreshing to hear, because you're basically saying, even if you're emulating somebody else, it's a style already.
Yeah.
You don't get wrapped up in semantics. That's already, you're already there. And that's what I really found enlightening, because it was a nice way of framing it. And I think that that's a good way to describe your style, is that when we got to see your breadth of your work, we got to see how you've evolved, and even when you do studies of other artists, it shows that you're putting your spin on it.
And
so
that in itself, like doing studies of other artists, is, if you say, for instance, actually that works on any genre, whether it be comics or like painting or whatever the case is, because I do some digital painting also, and I just kind of play with colors and things like that when I'm doing my coloring. It actually helped me color better because I understood colors better from studying digital painters. But when you're developing your style, if you draw a Mike Mignola figure and then put a RB Silva rendering on it, and then a Pepe Larraz eyeball, and then a Joe Mad pose and that kind of thing. That's your style. It's the amalgam of all those things that you like and you start to emulate. So you saw something that you liked, so you drew that thing. And if you do it smartly, then you don't plagiarize anyone specific. You can look at a wide breadth of artists and say, I like the way he renders, I like the way he uses light and dark, I like the way he poses the camera or does camera angles and do cool dynamic panels for a page. I love the way he colors. I love his inking style. And then you just say, I like all those things, so I want to try to do those things. And once you pull all of those different sources, put it together, that's you.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's how I see it. Every time people say, so you're just copying one style. As one style, it looks a little like this and this and this guy's style. Well, this and this and this guy's style is this and this and this other guy's style.
Right.
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 And it continues to go from there. Jerel is inspired by people. David Finch is inspired by people.
Yeah.
They didn't invent, but it's their style because they pulled them all together to make it their style.
That's really all. That's what the newer artists, and even like I said, even some veteran artists, that's what they know it. They don't realize they know it, but they know it. It's like a subconscious thing. You know why you like Jim Lee. You know why you like Mark Silvestri. You know that you want to draw like them, but you feel in your head, you have that imposter syndrome. I don't think I'll ever be able to get to that level. But then you don't realize that because you like them so much and you've been studying their art, your eyes start to shape, just like the way Mark Silvestri draws his eyes. Your hands, for some reason, your dynamic hands, and all the rendering that you put in the torso, you got from David Finch, and you're like, and eventually you start realizing that that's been your style. You've had a style this whole time. It's been within you the whole time.
But I want to say thank you so much, Joe. We got to see your art. We got to hear a little bit about your philosophy. We got to hear about your upcoming projects, and I think this is definitely one of the hallmarks in terms of like just being able to delve into a creator's mindset. So I encourage everybody who's still watching to check out the social media links there at the bottom. And Joe, I can't thank you enough. Rick, I can't thank you enough too. It's been a phenomenal show. And
thank you for having me.
Definitely, and you just let us know when you're ready to launch some of those other things, and we'll have you on the show again.
Definitely.
But, that being said, I'm going to close the show out with the last thing that we talk about, which is our charity project. And Rick, do you happen to have that? You have Golden Fight on your pulled up?
No, I keep forgetting.
I got it.
I keep forgetting.
Okay, I got it.
It's usually you that does this.
That's okay. I got you. All right. So, let's see. Can everybody see that? Okay. So, this is a project or a partner that we work with, and they're called Golden Fight. And basically, they're an organization that I like to call is both big and small enough. Big in the sense that they have big hearts. They are basically an organization that raises money to help families who have children that are afflicted with very severe diseases. And what happens is when that occurs, a lot of priorities or a lot of financial difficulties happen because they're focusing on their child's health, their life, healing them. And with Golden Fight, that's where Golden Fight comes in. They help raise money so that those families don't have to worry about those financial burdens. And they're small enough in the sense that they're based in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States. And what they do is they have a smaller footprint, smaller overhead costs. So they can say that 98% of the money that they raise goes directly to those families. So there's very low overhead. That overhead, that 2%, is basically to cover just administrative things. They don't pay themselves. They're pretty much their leadership is pretty much all volunteer. They want to make sure that they can help any of those families that are dealing with these difficult circumstances with their children. So Golden Fight is something that we're planning on doing a group fundraiser with them coming this September. Look for that to happen. But if you feel so, please go to their website. You can, if you have the means and you'd like to contribute, they're a worthy organization to help. Check out Golden Fight. Check out Joe Wills at those social media things. And let me close this. And I just want to say thank you to you both again. And this was
thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
I had a tremendous time with you, and we look forward to having you. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that watched, and check us out next week. So that being said, keep on drawing. Comics Cast, let it out. Signing out. Bye-bye.
Hi, Michael. I'll see you in a minute.
Shout out.